Time, they say, waits for no man. It's already the first day of August 2024. And I hope whatever you're doing, you're approaching it with the most seriously as you can, because the year is almost coming to an end. Welcome to a brand new month. Welcome to a brand new day on the AM show, your most informative, educative, and analytical breakfast show on the block. My name is Sweetie Abochi, and I do this with Benjamin Akakpo. Now, this morning, we'll start by serving you the AM news. Denisia Pomeje will anchor that, and then we'll get into our news review segment. Dr. Paul Grib-Wachidankwa, government spokesperson on governance and security, as well as Kwame Nkrumah Bosio, the secretary of the Independent Committee of the CPP, will be joining us to review the news stories captured in the newspapers. And then Haruna Mumbarak will serve you AM Sports. And then our big stories begin. This morning, we have an exciting interview with Professor Daniel Ofori, former provost of the College of Humanities at the University of Ghana. We will delve into the area of social corporate responsibility and why it is imperative for organizations to pursue this vital resource. He will speak to Benjamin Akakpo, and you don't want to miss that conversation. Also today, we'll discuss the emerging issues from the Joy News Agric Manifesto and how political parties are prepared to give them prominence when they are in power. And then we'll take a look at some of the concerns that the Minister for National Security, Kandapa, has on the dwindling trust of the political parties in the judiciary system and its implications for the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. So join us with the comments and your thoughts this morning, either via phone or across all social media platforms at Joy News on TV, and let's get interactive. First, let's start with the AM News, served by Denisia Poma-Ejay.
Hello, good morning. It's Thursday. My name is Denisia Poma-Ejay, and I'm here to serve you AM News. We begin from Parliament, where majority and the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, have been caught in crosshairs again after the Speaker indefinitely adjourned Parliament. Now, this is the second meeting in a row that the Speaker has adjourned the House abruptly, with several government business held in the balance. Now, last night, the Speaker adjourned the House indefinitely to the anger of the majority caucus.
To express our disappointment at the turn of events by Mr. Speaker. Well, we all know that in this Chamber of Parliament, we proceed on matters, reach consensus, and take decisions. I do not think that issue about adjournment and the reopening of Parliament is purely administrative. I heard a few days ago about this adjournment synod, and I must say, in all sincerity, that I engaged those I had to engage, and I was getting to a certain understanding that we could reach some consensus considering the number of business that we had as a house. Surprisingly, he did not give his closing remarks. Neither did he allow leaders to even make certain remarks, which these have become part of the practice of Parliament. And these are worrying, very worrying. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker is the father of Parliament. He presides. We don't want to go into any banter with him. We will not act in a manner disrespectful of the chair, except to say that we vehemently disagree with the unilateral decision to adjourn the House synod.
Well, the majority leader announced the intention of his side to recall Parliament for an emergency sitting.
Of course, I can also understand the constraints of Mr. Speaker, given the fact that the first Deputy Speaker is out of the jurisdiction, the second Deputy Speaker is also out of the jurisdiction. However, our rules permit or allows us to have a member presiding. So I still hold the view that Mr. Speaker could still have traveled for the NCSL program in the United States. I, for instance, I am billed for that travel, but I don't think that it is more important than government business that I'm undertaking. We are, with immediate effect, going to engage our caucus with the sole aim at getting the necessary consent of members to procure their signatories to recall their house in accordance with law. So expect to see a recall request from us.
Now, away from Parliament, hours after President Akufo-Addo launched the Accelerated Road Construction Project, dubbed District Road Improvement Program, the minority in an RTI request are demanding full cost of construction equipment being distributed to various districts under the program. Now, some 5,000 Ghanaian construction workers are expected to gain direct jobs from government's Accelerated Road Development Project. Now, addressing dignitaries before the launch, President Akufo-Addo said the intervention is proof of his administration's commitment to improving road infrastructure in Ghana.
Road Improvement Program will be funded by the District Assembly Common Fund. Administrator of the fund, Irina Toshi, assured that the equipment will strictly be dedicated to the purpose for which they were procured and not diverted to illegal mining sites.
I want to thank His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo for all the support that he gave to me when I proposed this initiative. To Dr. Mahamudu Baumia, who did not just support, but made sure that he broke all the hurdles that I was going through, I say, Vice President Ayiko. I wish to thank the members of Parliament, especially the leadership and the local government committee, for their support in this regard when it was proposed in Parliament.
Chief Executive Officer of the Jospon Group, Dr. Joseph Siao Ejapong, underscored the job creation opportunity the District Road Improvement Program will provide. He also announced that the next equipment to be purchased will be assembled locally.
The opportunities created through this program is very fast, and we're looking at 5,000 individuals, including drivers, operators, mechanics, welders, sprayers, janitors, and many others. This initiative will not only support the economic growth of our country, but also empower Ghanaians with valuable skills and a stable employment. Our commitment to capacity building is evident in our ongoing efforts to sign a memorandum of understanding with our technical universities in Ghana. And, Your Excellency, our partners Legon and the University of Lizhou in China.
Meanwhile, District Chief Executive of North Dai in the Volta region, Edmond Atakujo, disagreed with the NDC MP for Kintampo North, Joseph Kwame Kuma, that the district's road improvement program is designed to win votes for the governing party in the December elections.
That's what we are talking about.
So decentralization taken to a
different level where devolution proper is being seen and realized.
A quick one is the president haunted by the former president John Dramani Mahama?
Not at all. Not at all. It happens to all of us. When you are speaking, there will be a sleep here and then. And that's all. So there's nothing wrong about that. Okay. Not at all.
You said he campaigned for the former president?
Oh, yes. His Excellency Nanado, you remember, was it Ayawaso? Where is Neil Lamte Vanderboy? He mentioned Neil Lamte. Neil Lamte won. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, he's handing over to him. He has endorsed him. We like him or not.
he remains the former president, and then we'll make sure that we maintain you as a former president. That's his title, and he belongs to that place. So
Nanado has endorsed. You see, karma, nature. I'm on. Karma, nature is like that. When somebody does good thing and you want to destroy him, God will let you mention him. You see, my brother is confirming that he has seen a grader in his assembly. Maintenance, 7 years. You have not been able to maintain it. You are getting a new one.
At the commissioning of the over 2,000 units of equipment, President Akufo-Addo said the District Road Improvement Program is proof of his administration's commitment to improving road network in Ghana.
This fleet of 2,240 units includes motor graders, backhoes, rollers, wheel loaders, bulldozers, tipper trucks, concrete mixers, water tankers, low beds, and other essential equipment manufactured by the reputable Chinese company, Lugong Group of Companies. These machines are not merely tools, they are instruments of change, enablers of progress, and symbols of our dedication to improving the lives of all Ghanaians. The implementation of this ambitious program will be overseen by a 4-member committee at each metropolitan, municipal, and district assembly.
The 48th Engineering Regiment of the Ghana Armed Forces is expected to provide security for the equipment and instill discipline in the workforce.
From Greater Accra, let me take you to the Western region. In an effort to promote energy efficiency and conservation across Ghana, the Energy Commission, in collaboration with the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation and with financial support from the United Nations Development Programme UNDP, has held a significant town hall meeting in Takoradi to educate various stakeholders on their new regulations and how to be energy efficient. Our correspondent in Athalia Kwanzaa has more in this report.
The Assistant Manager in charge of Energy Efficiency Regulations at the Energy Commission, Hubert Nzozan, emphasized the importance of integrating energy efficiency education into the basic school curriculum.
When it comes to energy efficiency, we are all hearing it as adults. In some cases, people are hearing it for the first time. We believe that going to the basic institutions, starting from our children in school, to inculcate energy efficiency as part of the curriculum will go a long way to help, because some children have been found to influence the purchase decisions of their parents. So if they are aware of energy efficiency, energy conservations, perhaps they'll be able to advise their parents to also buy energy efficient appliances.
The town hall meeting, spearheaded by the Energy Commission, aims to raise awareness about the country's new energy efficiency regulations. The initiative seeks to educate key personnel from various sectors on the importance of the energy conservation and new regulations for regulated appliances.
The new energy efficiency appliance regulations that has been passed by Parliament. It's quite difficult when you come up with regulations without having key stakeholders being part of it in terms of the implementation. And so what basically the Energy Commission has done is to engage the public, including our stakeholders, to tell them about the provisions of the regulations and the purposes of these regulations, and looking at how we can judge in terms of implementation agencies to enforce these laws and make sure that the Ghanaian consumer gets the right product, which is efficient, durable, and also saves some money in their pocket.
The Western Regional Director of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Henry Yeledor, also highlighted the initiative's impact on the hospitality industry.
From the hospitality point of view, if you look at what they actually do with light, with energy, you realize that right from when one checks into a hotel, security, safety and security is paramount. So we insist that your lighting should be there to ensure that around your environment, people are safe as they walk around. Then when you enter your room, you need to relax. So sometimes you need your room to cool. So you're either using air conditioning or you are using your ceiling fan. You're also using your TV. Sometimes we also have other kettles and even fridges that cools your drink whilst you are there. But we are told today that depending on the choice you make in the gadget that you buy, will also determine how much you pay.
As Ghana continues to navigate the challenges of energy consumption, initiatives like these town hall meetings play a vital role in promoting sustainable practices and ensuring a brighter future for all. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanza, Western Region.
Now, the National Peace Council has called for the adoption of non-violent means of expressing grievances in the 2024 presidential and parliamentary election. In the light of past electoral tensions and incidents of violence, the Council aims to prevent any escalation of conflict and ensure a successful democratic process. Addressing stakeholders at the 2024 Peace Dialogue in Kumasi, the board chair of the National Peace Council, Dr. Ernest Edu-Jemfi, urged political parties, candidates, supporters, and the general public to use legal processes in addressing their grievances. Nana Boachi-Yadom has the rest of the story.
The Peace Dialogue seeks to contribute to ensuring peaceful and credible 2024 elections by promoting a national platform for consensus building among major stakeholders, including the security agencies, Electoral Commission, Judicial Service, media, women and youth groups, academia, among others. The dialogue is expected to whip instrumental response to increase trust, confidence, and peaceful 2024 election. Dr. Ernest Edu-Jemfi is board chair of the National Peace Council.
Today, we are here again to mobilize consensus on the theme building trust among stakeholders for a peaceful 2024 general elections in Ghana. Your Excellency, I hope you will agree with me without equivocation that democracies across the globe is under attack to the extent that the champions of democracy like the United States have not even been spared. Elections, which in a democratic environment is accepted as the mechanism for choosing leaders for states, have now become the ground for conflict and violent destruction of lives and property.
Dr. Edu-Jemfi encouraged political actors not to resort to violence.
To promote trust in the lead up to the December elections, I urge you all to shun any activity by any person or group of persons that has the potential to derail the peace of our beloved country. In our homes, workplaces, schools, in vehicles, let us conduct ourselves and use language that promote and protect the peace and stability of our motherland. I urge all Ghanaians to endeavor in all circumstances to use non-violent approaches to address grievances. Let us encourage positive virtues such as tolerance, love for neighbor, transparency, and accountability.
Mr. Leonardo Santos is Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for West and the Sahel.
This year's elections will once more test the strength of Ghana's 30-year-old democratic process, especially as they are organized in an environment marked by internal and regional security challenges, misinformation and disinformation that spread too quickly on social media, the erosion of political enthusiasm among the youth, socioeconomic hardships, a rise in defamatory statements and hate speech. These are possible triggers for disruptions during electoral activities.
For Joy News, Nana Boachi-Yadom, Kumasi.
Oh, let me take you to the Upper West region, where the Nadoli Kalio District Director of Health Services, Phoebe Balangui-Timi, has expressed worry over the growing cases of hepatitis B, C, and liver cancer in the district. Speaking at a medical screening exercise funded by the Nadoli Kaleo Member of Parliament, Anthony Suma, she called on the people to prioritize their health and desist from unhealthy lifestyles. Now, Phoebe also used the opportunity to call on the government to make vaccines available for the treatment of the diseases. Now, Joy News' Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
Nadoli Keleo District Director of Health Services, Phoebe Balogun-Yentimi, painting a mental picture of what prompted the Nadoli Keleo Member of Parliament, Anthony Suma Mankara, to fund the medical screening of constituents on hepatitis B, C, and liver cancer.
Initially, we were seeing a lot of the Bs, but currently we are beginning to see hepatitis C also on the ascendancy. Aside that, we have also been battling with cancers. And in this district, I would like to indicate that we have even lost staff from liver cancer. And we've also lost staff from other cancers like the breast cancer. And so because of the data that we are seeing, because data informs everything that we do, we discussed with the MP to see how he could help us. Many people will not have access to this service because we don't provide this service except the testing for the hepatitis B and C.
Phoebe Balogun-Yentimi says the figures are worrying and there is a need to up the ante in order to put a lid on its rise.
The figures we are getting is quite alarming. We do not want to put it on the public domain, but people will get scared, but it's quite alarming. And as I indicated earlier, yesterday we did Nadoli, we did Cherkong, we did Natok, and in fact, the patronage is very, very good, very good. People are struggling to have the test, and we have seen quite a number of hepatitis C cases overtaking the hepatitis B, which is quite frightening.
Dozens of residents from the constituency thronged the various training centers for a free medical exercise conducted by the Liver Cancer Foundation, led by surgeon Dr. Sare Ofori.
Most people are living with hepatitis B and C, but they do not appreciate the relationship between the hepatitis and liver cancer. So by the time they have symptoms of liver cancer, the disease is so advanced that no treatment works for them, and they only have a maximum of about 6 months to live. We want to change this narrative, and so what we try to do is anybody with test in the community who is hepatitis B or C positive, we scan your liver as well. And so if there's a cancer already developing, so it will be so small that will be amenable to treatment. If for persons who are positive, who do not have any cancer in their liver yet, what we do is we put them on surveillance, we follow them up. So every 6 months, we recommend that you go to a center and do a scan of your liver.
Using figures from the World Health Organization, the Kolibu surgeon disclosed that liver cancer is the #1 cause of all cancer deaths. He estimated the number of people living with hepatitis in Ghana to be between 8 to 13% of the country's population.
Has been found from people who come to hospital, people who do blood transfusion, and then isolated data hospital-based. So the first time that we want to see a defined community and the prevalence of hepatitis B and C. So at the end of this screening program, we should be able to tell the number of people who have been infected with hepatitis B and C in the Upper West region. And that's very important for the Ministry of Health and stakeholders to be able to design intervention to solve the problem.
NDC Nadolo Keleo constituency organizer Frederick Kanigi averred that health is one of the topmost priorities of the Nadolo Keleo Member of Parliament, Anthony Suma Mankara, and wouldn't like to deviate from it, hence his involvement in the free medical screening.
His interest has always been on health, and health has always been one of the items that is on his agenda. Over the years, he has organized such screening services for people across the constituency. Not once, not twice. I can say this is the 4th or 5th one that he is doing. But this is more particular because it has a relation to the liver, which is an essential organ of every living organism.
Whilst advocating for the government to come with vaccine for the treatment of the disease, the Nadolo Keleo District Director of Health Services urged the people to desist from unhealthy lifestyle practices that will lead to them contracting the disease.
We would also want to intensify education on the modes of transmission. Sharps like if somebody is infected and then you also get pricked by that infected person's needle, you get it. Blood transfusion, where it is not what? Actually screened before it is given up to you. Communal eating, we share calabashes, saliva and all that. Sex, you can get it. So it's my advice to the public is that let's avail ourselves for screening. Let's save something little to be able.
Reporting for the news, Rafik Salam, Keleu.
Well, up next will be business updates, and I will do you the honors. Welcome once again to Business Updates. Now, price of liquefied petroleum gas is expected to witness some marginal reduction later this week. This is in line with the expected drop in prices of other petroleum products in the country. Gabriel Kumi is Vice Chairman of the Association of LPG Marketers.
Once there is a shutdown at Akufo-Addo, it means we are all supposed to direct our attention to Tema to lift LPG and distribute to both the Tema zone and the Akufo-Addo zone. Obviously, that will bring a bit of pressure on the BDCs in Tema. But currently, we have more than enough BDCs that have stocks. I mean, talking to the BDCs, we now have over 6 or 7 BDCs that have stocks that are ready to supply onto the market. And we are also ready to lift from Tema and distribute to everywhere across the country. I mean, when we checked this afternoon, the 800 gas stations across the country, each of them has opened and is doing business. There is no shortage in any gas station. Basically, I think IES has done the right prediction. LPG is going to be relatively stable. If we are lucky, we are likely to have a little bit of a dip in price. There may be a slight price reduction beginning tomorrow.
Now, economist Dr. Patrick Isumi is still asking the Bank of Ghana to press ahead with strict regulations aimed at checking dollarization of the economy. This was after the Bank of Ghana governor admitted that one of the surest ways to check this is first stabilize the cedi. Dr. Isumi says enforcement is still key.
He's making is that, we shouldn't be expecting magic from the central bank when the exports or the current account is not working so great. The economy itself is not growing well, and the confidence levels have gone down. I think where I slightly disagree is that, yes, the fundamentals are important, but you also need to deal with the institutional arrangement around the ease of having access to foreign currency. I think that part is also enables the speculation aspect. So even if people want to people are speculating against the currency, the cedi, and they want to hold dollars, and we've tightened our rules such that people who ordinarily don't have any business importing or exporting or paying foreign workers or doing any of those don't have access to the currency. That will help, because whenever the speculation kicks in, it is the ease of people being able to get access to the currency that also supports and further heightens the depreciation. So in the main, yes, we definitely need to work harder to strengthen the fundamentals, but I think we should also tighten our forex rules, and so that people who are not importing don't need to service any foreign loan in foreign currency. The regulations are too weak. The systems are not strong enough. That's why we're able to have people buy and hold dollars in their bedrooms and all of those things. So I think we need to tighten that aspect.
Well, that does it for business updates and AM News. But don't forget that News Review is right after. We'll be joined in studio by Dr. Paul Dankwa. He spoke government spokesperson on governance and security. And Kwame Nkrumah Butchus, he's the secretary, I beg your pardon, of the Independent Committee, CPP. My name is Denise Apomaije. Enjoy the rest of the show.
aboard the news review segment on the AM show. Today is a fresh new month, so I'm particularly excited. But before we get into our review, a gentle reminder that this program, this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And they're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening at their various locations. And here in Accra, you can find them on the Spintex Road, opposite the Shell signboard. In Kumasi, Kronuma Buenya, behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Takrade, Anaji Estate. In Tema, Community 22. In Techiman Hanswa and Yesiama in Zima. And here are their call lines, 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. This morning, my guest in the studio with me is Dr. Paul Dankwa, government spokesperson on governance and security, as well as Mr. Kwame Nkrumah Botiu, the secretary of the Independent Committee of the CPP. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Very much.
Paul, a very good morning to you too, and happy new month.
Happy new month.
Right. So, like we do on the show, we give our guests a minute or two to get into any issue of national interest that they want to react to. So, Paul, because you're a familiar face, I'll come to you second. Let me come to Mr. Kwame Nkrumah first. What's on your mind this morning?
What's on my mind is the recent DRIP, the District Road Improvement Program by the government.
Right.
I think it is a good initiative because good roads are very essential to the development of the economy. And I saw the various equipment at the Independence Square yesterday, and I think it's a step in the right direction. However, I wish that this had come earlier, because it seems some of these things have become just election gimmicks. We wait for 3 years, and in the 4th year, when everybody has spent all their salary on their car shock absorbers and all that, then you come up with these things. So it's a step in the right direction, but if they ever come back into power, they should try and do it earlier.
So they should try and do it earlier.
Yes.
I see Paul Grave was smiling when you were, talking about this DRIP that Nana Akufo-Addo, the president, launched yesterday. Paul Grave.
So, Sweetie, a very good morning to you, and a very good morning to my dear brother, and a very good morning to your viewers. And to state that President Nana Akufo-Addo, for me, last week when I was here, I said that I read a scripture that said that I've fought a good fight, I've kept the faith, and I've finished the course. That would be one of the very good words that President Nana Akufo-Addo will share with the Ghanaian people, especially with yesterday's DRIP launch, which is going to impact the rural communities and urban communities, road network, over 2,420 equipment, each constituency, each district, each MMDAs and MMDCs are going to have about 4 to 7 different equipment. And I commend the government for such a bold initiative and a bold step. It does take time for procurement processes. It does take time for raising of very credible partners to pull off such an initiative. And so better late than never. I have stated that Christmas has come early. And so at the beginning of August, at the end of July, Christmas, December has come a bit early for every single person. And for me, when I look at President Nana Akufo-Addo's concept of decentralization and the concept around having more regions, there seems to be reason why he thought about this, because now a lot more resources will be shared to the various localities and the various municipalities, and everyone is going to grow at a speed at which that we need. And so we commend government for giving us an early Christmas in terms of our road network.
So it's just right on time then?
Absolutely.
Not late,
absolutely.
Not too early,
absolutely.
Not too late.
Absolutely.
Right. Those are your thoughts. Thank you for sharing. Let's get into the newspapers. I'll start with the Daily Guide newspaper. On the front page, Nana launches DRIP for better road network. We just got into that. Northerners embrace Baumia's vision of possibilities. Affirmative action bill passage, a critical move in gender equality. That is according to the Minister, Dakwa Newman. And Efia Koto sues A+ for 5 million Ghana cedis. Let's start with this DRIP project that was launched yesterday. For context, I'll read a bit from here and then we move on to other stories. So President Akufo-Addo yesterday launched yet another ambitious program to help fix roads in all districts across the country, dubbed the District Road Improvement Program. That's the DRIP. The aim is to enhance the country's road network, and this is part of the government's ongoing efforts to decentralize development and improve the quality of life for Ghanaians. We brought you that yesterday, and the president did slip his tongue and announced and said, Mahama. I thought it was just interesting to watch. I heard him if I describe it as a Biden moment, you know. Yeah, but let's move on. It's nothing really to, unless you think that there's something you need to defend on that.
Much ado about nothing.
Much ado about nothing. Parliament to hold extraordinary session. And so the Majority Caucus of Parliament has formally requested an extraordinary session of Parliament, citing urgent government business that requires immediate attention. And according to a memo addressed to the Speaker of Parliament, the request is made pursuant to Article 112 of the Constitution and Standing Order 53, which empowers at least 15% of members of Parliament to request a meeting of Parliament. And the urgent matters slated for consideration include a financing agreement with International Development Association, tax exemption for beneficiaries under the One District, One Factory. So majority is saying that the Speaker shouldn't have closed Parliament business, and so they have other things to do, and so they are recalling Parliament for something. I don't know why. Okay. Well, let me get into the stories and then we discuss. So this is an editorial, Tamale Jambori, double tank politics. Northerners embrace Baumia's vision of possibilities. Akufo-Addo launches aquaculture for food and jobs program. Ifeakoto sues A+ for 5 million Ghana cedis, and 28th GJA Media Awards Committee announced. Bank of Ghana launches centralized foreign exchange platform, and I want to get into the story. The Bank of Ghana has launched the centralized foreign exchange trading platform that will be effective today, August 1st, 2024. A release signed by the BOG Secretary Sandra Thompson said the launch of the platform is to boost the control for directors of management of bureaus and enlarge the bank's surveillance and handling of their operations in compliance with the Foreign Exchange Act 2006 at 723 and the Anti-Money Laundering Act as amended, and it also complies with other relevant notices and enactment. According to the release, all licensed foreign exchange bureaus must now use this platform when buying and exchanging foreign currencies, marking a milestone in the bank's attempt to establish sound and safe operations of foreign exchange business. I would like to add 2 more stories and then I'll come to you, gentlemen. Gender Ministry, IOM, commits to human trafficking fight. I'm looking for that story about affirmative action, and the story is on page. Right. So Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dakwa Newman, has expressed her delight at the passage of the landmark affirmative action bill by Parliament during its 32nd sitting of the 3rd meeting in the 8th session. In a statement, the sector minister, who laid the current bill in Parliament on June 14, said the passage is a significant stride towards achieving gender equity across all sectors and addressing the historical marginalization of women. So first, the launch of this DRIP, and then hanging Parliament and the call for an extraordinary session because there's still parliamentary business, according to the majority, passage of the affirmative action bill, and then the central bank's launch of a centralized foreign exchange platform. These 4 stories for your reflections. Mr. Kwame Nkrumah Butsu.
Starting with the DRIP, as I said before, it should have been earlier. And I believe that every country should look at what past governments have done and improve on it. Ghana is 67 years old. If you look at what the Kwame Nkrumah-led CPP government achieved from 1957 to 1966, including the Tamamoto Way and secondary schools and other infrastructure, it was way ahead of its time, even with that amount of money, apparently about 600 million pounds or so. Now we are dealing with billions, and in a space of 8 years, it is now that we are launching the DRIP. I believe that it is just politics as usual.
Okay.
And Ghanaians should advise themselves. And
Margaret was just saying that it takes time to procure these things. Procurement processes take time, so it's just a matter of timing. It's not an electioneering gimmick or political propaganda to earn the favor of voters.
Day in, day out, it seems as if the procurement processes seem to crystallize just a few months before elections. And it's not good enough. And even the roads that are churned out within 6 months, I call them disposable roads. Within 6 months, they are all in shambles. So it's not something that I agree with.
Oh.
I think they should take a cue from what the CPP did in their 9 years that they were in power from 1957 to 1966. And they should hit the ground running from the time they are sworn into power, so that by the time they leave power, they could have achieved something significant for the country.
Okay.
And
what are the stories then?
Coming to the affirmative action bill, the passing, I think it's a step in the right direction. I am firmly of the view that women and the marginalized are the solution to this country's development. There's so much potential in our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, but society is structured in such a way that they don't seem to get the best for what their talents entail. If you look at our maternity leave structure at the moment, it's just a short period. And even when you come to the workplace, when it comes to promotions, it seems coincidentally that men seem to be favored more than women.
Yeah.
So I think the passing of this bill, as it is backed by law, sometimes people say charity begins at home, do the best for your daughters at home. But now that it is backed by law, the fear of breaching the law will now be on the table. And I believe workplaces and other institutions, political parties, and everybody everywhere will now be on their guard and give women the opportunities that they deserve to move this country forward.
Okay. Palgrave.
So you look at affirmative action bill. I have stated that it's one of the best bills to have been passed. It's been on the table for quite a while. We have grown up in a very patriarchal world and a patriarchal system. I've always challenged the thoughts of how I'm a daughter's daddy. I have daughters, and how you need to marry and you need to let your daughters change their names to the man's name. I'm wondering where it's coming from. We've always had that patriarchal system of when you're going to marry, your father will walk you down the aisle. And in other parts of the continent, your father is the only person that can sign a signature for you to be able to get a passport. And so I'm glad that we have been able to actionalize this into a bill and finally into a law when the president does assent into it. And also particularly that President Akufo-Addo has always been very passionate about ensuring that there's equitable distribution of responsibilities. In his government, we have a lot more ministers who are females, a lot more MMDCs that are females, a lot more CEOs that are females, and even in some various ministries, the management team has majority of females. My caution really around this is that we shouldn't empower more women to the detriment of men. And so we should ensure that there's an equitable distribution of that. Okay. And I reckon that this week when the Minister for Education was having the Minister's National State of Affairs, he mentioned that there's an equitable distribution of gender in terms of gender parity for both males and females at an across of about 50%. And so I'm glad that that bill has come to fruition under the leadership of Dakwa Newman. And to state that I add my voice to join with the majority leader to ask the Speaker of Parliament to recall Parliament, because Parliament are in 3 sessions. There are meetings, there are sessions, and then there are committees. And it's important that to aid the government businesses, if they haven't finished with their legislative work and their committees work and their sessions work, it's important that they are called back for us to ensure that we finish some of the government businesses that are ongoing. I commend the Bank of Ghana.
The question on my mind was, are these things we're calling government business, it's so urgent that we have to recall Parliament? The Environmental Protection Bill 2024, the exemptions for the tax exemptions for beneficiaries under one district, one factory, and then there's that Budget Bill 2023. Can these not wait till Parliament resumes?
Do you know how long the Parliament sessions are? The break is too long. I think that these bills are important. Sometimes they need to recall for the first reading or the second reading, and then the committees can work upon it. And I think that is in the step in the right direction, because we have a lot of time. We need to maximize the little time that we have. It's almost 4 months to the end of the year, and the transitional government, obviously elections, and the parliament, the 8th parliament is going to come to an end on the 6th of January 2025 for the 9th parliament to commence. I think that it's important that the 8th parliament considers these bills that are on the table, because it impacts the work of the Ghanaian people.
Why do you think he would adjourn Parliament then, if he knows the importance of all this?
Well, I'm not in the mind of the Speaker, but I mean, I know that Right Honourable Speaker would always want to see the
Can't
interest.
just be because he wants to go to the US.
No.
Can't just be that.
Well, I mean, I'm not too sure what the Speaker is thinking, but I think that every single Ghanaian should add their voice to the call by the Majority Leader to ask that Parliament resumes just for a few more days to finish these bills, or even continue the conversations around these bills, because they're important. I mean, if tax exemptions are going for paid persons that are doing one district, one factory, you can imagine the impact of that in the Ghanaian economy. So it's important that we allow Parliament to sit for a few more days. Right. I want to commend Bank of Ghana for this Forex platforms, because it's critically important as we look at stability of our Ghanaian currency, and also to ensure that we have an equitable agreement of how Forex is going to be on a regular day-to-day basis. And I've seen that the Bank of Ghana has been doing some good work over the past years, especially in regulating the Forex industry and ensuring that persons that go to the Forex Bureau would be able to have an ID card, and if you are transacting Forex currencies, you'll be able to go through those processes. And so I commend this Forex platform. I'm very certain that we'll not have different prices that are ongoing at various places in various Forex Bureau, but whatever you find in Forex Bureau A, you find the same in Forex Bureau B, and I think that would be very good for our currency and our Ghanaian economy.
Yes, I would want to add my voice. I agree with the Parliament recall, especially regarding the Environmental Protection Bill. We cannot claim that our environment is in a good condition, especially with galamsey and other issues. It's a total mess. So it's a step in the right direction. I commend the Majority Leader for recalling, and I'm sure it will be approved. And with the BOG platform too, it is also a very good step in the right direction. We've had various well-meaning institutions who have fallen foul of these Forex laws, and some of them, it hasn't been deliberate. But having this platform, they'll be able to have some guidance as to how to stay within the legal remit. And it will also help in countering money laundering and other things that are detrimental for the economy.
Right. Let's do some other stories now. The Anchor newspaper on the front page, don't politicize Atlantic Lithium deal ratification. That is the Central Regional Chiefs pleading with Parliament and political actors. One District, One Equipment initiative launched. Ghana-Germany exchange program in carpentry ends successfully. Ghana Gas to shut down plant, but assures public of no doom. So, and that's the story I want to get into on page 3 now. So the Ghana National Gas Company Limited has announced that its gas processing plants and offshore gas export facilities will shut down beginning today, Thursday, 1st August 2024, to Wednesday, 17th August 2024. That's 17 days. And the shutdown, according to management, is to allow for critical safety and essential maintenance works to be carried out to enhance the plant operational efficiency. But they're assuring Ghanaians that there will be no doom. So this will be done without us suffering any power outages. Don't politicize Atlantic Lithium deal ratification. So chiefs in Eweya and Infantiman traditional area in the central region have made a clarion call to Parliament, to the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, as well as political actors, not to politicize this lithium agreement between Ghana and Barari DV Ghana Limited, a subsidiary of Atlantic Lithium Limited, currently before Parliament. And they argue that the 15-year-old deal, which is taking time to be finalized in Parliament, has the potential to offer decent employment opportunities for the youth in the area and Ghanaians at large, hence should be supported by all. These two quick stories, and then we get into your newspaper, Dr. Paul Gwachidam.
No, I think that lithium is key. I'm glad that we are looking at its ratification. We have stated that it's important that the Ghanaian people have a higher share in terms of percentage and control on our minerals, because as we are developing, it's important that we're able to have those equitable share. And then also we've stated that all new minerals that will be found, we'll make sure that we have the accompanying refinery that would be able to complement that. And so we'll not just mine and take our minerals out for them to refine, but here in country,
I think allocated for the community development
absolutely,
fund.
and so we'll be able to refine our minerals, and so we commend this initiative.
Okay, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Yes. Well, regarding that deal, as long as the nation will get maximum benefits, I think it is something that is to be supported. But as Dr. Palgrave said, there's a percentage that is allocated to the
community development.
To the community development, and I believe when Parliament will review it accordingly to avoid the mistakes we made with our gold resources in the past, where these foreign companies they make extreme profits to the detriment of their country. So we just have to take our time. I know 15 years is a long time, but we still have to take our time to make sure that we get the maximum benefit for the country. But aside that, I think it's a good thing. Yes.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic now. That's your paper.
So on the front page of the Daily Graphic, President launches Road Improvement Program. Initiative provides 2,240 road construction equipment and creates 10,000 jobs. You know, this is a very good initiative, and anyone who attempts to politicize it will be off the grade of our continuous development as a country. Because I look at the graders, I look at the water tankers, I look at the wheel loaders, I look at the bulldozers, I look at the rollers, backhoes, low beds, concrete mixer, tipper truck, and I commend government that over the years they have been very concise, very focused in ensuring that this is delivered, and it's not an election project at all, because from now, roads that are deteriorated can be fixed in the various constituencies and districts and municipalities, and I'm concerned that this is coming up, and I'm happy for that, and I commend President Akufo-Addo. We've spoken about jobs over and over again. This is going to create about 10,000 jobs instantly, and we must commend that. NHIA launches free annual health checkup initiative. Graphic grader housing fair begins today. EC begins mop-up registration today. The Choose Peace Over Violence, which is the Christian, I think it's the Ghana Peace Council, is stating that Professor Nkrumah would be buried on Monday. Francis Nkrumah will be buried on Monday. I think a few other stories that I found in here which are of critical importance. There's global politics going on in the United States of America. Kamala Harris is ongoing. NHIA and free annual health care checkup initiative. Maybe I can just take that, because I think that's key. The National Health Insurance Authority has launched a free health screening initiative under the National Health Insurance Scheme as part of national efforts to tackle non-communicable diseases and chronic conditions. The free annual health checkup program will provide free health screening to all citizens. The Chief Executive, Dr. Dacosta Boajai, told Daily Graphic in Accra yesterday that the initiative on the team addressing non-communicable diseases and chronic diseases in Ghana was the preventive aspect of the healthcare. And our free annual healthcare program is designed to prevent severe health conditions, reduce hair care costs, and improve quality of health. I think today is Professor Ablade Glover's birthday. I've seen that over here, so happy birthday to him. And then a few host of stories that is ongoing in politics. The ECG do.
I see a story about political parties must. I think it's on the next page. Yeah.
Political parties must state position on
Okada business.
Okada. I can read that. So ahead of the 7 December polls, the Okada Riders Association of Ghana has stressed the need for political parties seeking political power to come clear on how they intend to legalize the Okada business. We, and I quote, this is a quote, "We have extended invitation to meet those seeking political power, especially President John Dramani Mahama and the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, on the issue. Former President Dramani Mahama has assured us that he will legalize Okada. So we want the Vice President to also come out and let us know his position on this matter, he said. And this is an interview that was done in the Daily Graphic.
It's not just the Vice President.
Illegality, regulation.
On Okada? Let's
So for me...
First, they're actually helping.
Absolutely, no doubt.
A way to regulate their activities. But what is the position of government on this?
So what I know is that for internal security purposes, the police, which is led by the Inspector General of Police, has ensured that everyone who owns a motor or sits on a motor has a helmet, obeys the traffic regulations, and uses the requisite lanes that has been marked out for them. And so that I commend the internal police security for
not sure if there's
ensuring
a lane that has been marked out for them on all our roads.
Not on all our roads, not on all our roads. But I mean, there's a lane that is marked out for them. You cannot rule that out. There's a lane that is marked out for them. So I'm glad that all persons that are using motorcycles are in helmets. I'm glad that they are stopping at the various traffic lights. I'm glad that they are roadworthy. I'm glad that they are insured. I think that it's very specific regionally. So in some urban parts of Ghana, one of the major means of transportation is the motorbikes that people use, and also ensuring that you don't have an overload on the motorbikes. You don't have more than 2 people on the motorbikes by having 3 or 4 or 5 that can cause a lot more damages and injuries.
But is it part of your plan to legalize the operations?
I am not too sure what the position of government is on this. And so I do not want to go ahead of that. But I think that the framework really for me is that they are in oppression. They have become a force to reckon with. Every now and then, even when I am heated in very deep traffic and I need to get to the radio station early, I can jump on one. So I have a personal helmet that I use every now and then. And so it's a broader conversation that must be held, because I think that they have become a force to reckon with.
And they are saying that they'll be voting based on, or their interest in who they vote for is based on the direction that they choose. And the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has been very clear that he intends to legalize it. But what do you think, Mr. Kwame?
I think in the short term, the Okada business is quite beneficial. I mean, there have been instances where sometimes senior lawyers, occasionally, I mean, you are late for court, you jump on the Okada and get to work. But I think in the long term, we should look at beefing up our public transport system. Is woefully inadequate. We should look at our rail systems. We should look at our bus rapid transport systems and all that. These things in the short term, they are okay, but we should think long term. We should think about our children, because you cannot have everybody jumping on Okada. And it is true that there are some designated lanes, from Standards Board all the way to about the Ponglo traffic lights. There are some designated lanes for motorbikes. But regarding safety, there are also some issues there. I know quite a number of people who've lost their lives through reckless riding by the Okada. So in the short term, it can be legalized, but it should not be our focus. Our focus should be in the long term. Rail transport, whether it is subway, whether it is this Sky Train that was never implemented.
Have you seen some of the structures they put out for the Sky Train? Dr. Bajidanko, have you seen what? Have you seen one? I think if you're coming back from the Volta region, I'm not sure exactly
what I see.
Yes. Have you seen what I'm?
I think I've seen.
What I see is that President.
Motorway.
Yes, I think around the Shy Hills road. I've seen it. I mean, it's become a white elephant.
No, but you see what I see for me is that President Akufo-Addo has set the nation on a foundation to rethink our transport system. That is what I see. What I see is that President Akufo-Addo has sought to built a lot more foundational works within the railway industry. And I can promise the Ghanaian people that the future government is going to be really exciting when we begin to implement and see the rails working effectively, because the rail infrastructure has been marked out, it's been put in place. All we need now is to put the machines on, and we hope that no one will go and put a vehicle to collide it when we are testing.
Can you really be making these promises?
No, absolutely.
4 or 5 months.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the government has always been key in ensuring that promises that are made are promises that are delivered and promises that are kept. On page 20 of the daily graphic, cost of data in Ghana, the complex dynamics, and I see the picture of Dr. Joe Anoche here, the Director General of NCA, and the Sector Minister, the Honorable Osla also Akufo. I think that I'll just take a quote here that says that obviously by fostering a collaborative approach, stakeholders can navigate the complexities of data pricing and work towards a more comprehensive and inclusive digital future for all Ghanaians.
I think that's all time will allow.
It's the birthday of the Auditor General,
right?
Mr. Johnson Ekwamwa.
Happy birthday.
Yes, okay.
All right, let's get into your newspaper. I think you have the new finder.
Yes, I do. And one of the stories that really caught my mind is a non-political story. It can be found on page 5 about Melcom donating 25 medical fridges to 25 hospitals nationwide.
Okay.
If you take a close look at the developed countries, you have corporate institutions, you have individuals investing a lot into public infrastructure. It is a step in the right direction. And I think other institutions should take a look at this and should follow suit and do what they can to also assist the government, because the government cannot do it alone. And if you go to page 4, Minority Files RTR request to demand cost of drip project is also a step in the right direction, looking at the ambulance saga and all that. Sometimes if you do not look at the figures from the beginning, that is when we have these explosive court cases and all that. So the due diligence has to be done, as the Court of Appeal held that the due diligence was supposed to be done by the Ministry of Health and not the minority.
So can you tell us, can you give us an estimate, Dr. Palgrave?
Well, what I'm aware of,
Yeah,
what I'm aware of is that
what did it cost us?
What I'm aware of is that this has come from the District Assembly Common Fund. Okay, so
an estimate of
I don't have an idea readily, but you see on your page 24 of your daily graphic says 90 million euros Agric project commences in Northtown. That's also a very key development that is ongoing. It says that we need technology. No, we are not deviating.
We're asking about the estimate, how much it costs for this drip project to be launched.
Yes, that is what I'm saying, that I'm aware that it's come from the District Assembly Common Fund.
You can't put a figure to it.
No, I'm aware that.
Let's hold on the 90 million Agric project.
No, but it's in the dailies.
Yeah, let's finish. You're done with your papers.
Okay.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, you
Yes,
finish and then maybe you have time, I'll allow it. Yeah.
So I'm not a doctor, just to clarify.
Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, you know Dr. Kwame Nkrumah?
Yes,
so
I
sorry for that. Yeah.
I understand. So
but can you do the stories on the front page first?
Regarding the front page, we have the 2,240 machines to fix roads, which I said is a step in the right direction, but it's too late. It's too late. 8 years, you are now doing this. 9 years of CPP, the roads we did are still there, including the Tamamoto. They should take a cue from that. And next time, if they ever come back into power. And if you look at recalling Parliament to approve loans and bills, I agree perfectly with the majority leader. It's very important that we all do our best to work around the clock. And if, in case the Speaker of Parliament is not ready, he has his deputies there, and things can go on without him. And Ghana Gas, our maintenance culture has been a problem. So I was very, very happy to see this story. Maintenance is always key. And I think I would give them 100% for this shutdown too.
Well, it begins today. Hopefully, they don't actually let we, as citizens, suffer power outages during this maintenance.
Well, they have promised.
But I do want
to.
pose a question to you, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah, because you're from the CPP. Yes. What are your plans for this year's election?
We have opened nominations, and we have had a few people pick their nomination forms. So we are going to contest the 2024 elections. And when it comes to the
4 months, today is 1st August. You're now opening nominations?
No, we opened nominations last week. You know,
so as we speak, you don't have a flag bearer.
We haven't had a flag bearer election, but we do have aspirants who have picked forms, and we're having an election on the 24th of August. And we have worked very hard, and we know that come December 7th, we'll be crowned with success.
What constitutes this hard work that you've done?
Well, we are on the ground everywhere, and everybody knows the ideology of the CPP. It is not a raw capitalist property grabbing kind of institution. He quoted, I have done a good job, etc., from the Bible. And the last time I was here, I also quoted 1 Kings 4:25, which says that in the days of Solomon, every man had his house and his garden and lived in safety. So that is a socialist ideology where everybody has to benefit, not survival of the fittest. And the CPP record is there for everybody to see. It is not a family and friends kind of thing.
Are you confident that you'll be able to do all the groundwork, all the internal elections that you're supposed to hold before December 2024, and which would, enable you make some significant impact during this election?
We will be able to do it. And even CPP in the early 80s, under the name of PNP with Dr. Liman, they also had their various internal wranglings. The internal wrangling is not new to the party because we are very passionate people with the interest of Ghanaians at heart. So occasionally we seem to be at each other's throats. But the internal wrangles were resolved 3 months to the elections, and then Liman still managed to win. We are not saying because of that we are being complacent, but we are working round the clock to make sure that come December 7th, Ghanaians get the breather that they deserve after how many years of NDC and MPP, 1992 to 2024. Ghanaians need to experience the joy and prosperity of years gone by from 1957 and 1966.
Again, do you think you're giving these two political parties the duopoly, you're talking about NDC and PDP,
yes.
Do you think you're giving them a run for the money? Do you think that you're giving them enough pressure?
We are. And fortunately, their own record is there for Ghanaians to see. If you compare it to the record of the CPP, it is there. It is cast in stone.
All right.
History tells it.
We have to wrap up. Dr. Paul Wachidanko, I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Well, I think that CPP lives in past glories very much. They should wake up and really smell the coffee, because the truth of the matter is that in this Fourth Republic, the Ghanaian people are aware that better managers of the economy, better understanding of the economy, better caring nature of the economy is none other than the New Patriotic Party. Really? Developments that have begun
earlier,
from 2000 to 2008 under President John Akufo-Addo.
You mentioned earlier. Dr. Pablo, hold for me, please. Also, earlier you just said that every promise this government has made, they ensure that they fulfill them.
Absolutely.
Now you're saying that in terms of the economy,
absolutely,
blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely. I hold my view on that.
3 promises that this government has made.
I hold my view on that.
The president said he's putting his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey.
Okay.
He says that he would not allow his ministers or members in his government to loot or get away with corruption-related issues.
Okay.
And he promised $1, 1 cedi. $1, 1 cedi. And that was the vice president.
Okay.
Still, the head of the economic management team.
Okay.
Have you delivered on those 3 promises?
Okay.
As we speak. And you have about 4 or 5 months to the end of your tenure.
3 promises of fighting Galamsey. We have delivered on that.
You have not delivered
on that. We have. The liking skills are very clear. You know, we came to meet... Absolutely. We came to meet a very devastated... Go and look at the lands that has been reclaimed, lands that people did legal and illegal mining that left abandoned. Our government has had to reclaim a number of lands. Go and look at LEAP, alternative livelihood. Go and look at LEAP. Go and look at LEAP, the people that live in the vulnerable environments where mining goes on. We have made sure that there's an alternative livelihood program. We've brought in about 12 mercury-free machines to ensure that people move away from the water bodies. There's a lot more education. We've concentrated and ensured that people that are in the localities, the chiefs. They own the lands. We've given the power of attorney to them. And so when it comes to Galamsey and the president's promise on that, I believe that he's fulfilled and achieved that very clearly. Number two, you talk about corruption. Yeah. There is not a single person in this government that has been involved in corruption or corruption-related activities that has been convicted by the law courts. If you find any evidence of that, I think that the president has always put in the schemes in place, set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor, invested very largely in the anti-graft agencies.
That's office now. How do you think it's faring?
Well, I think it's doing very well. I think it's fulfilling the mandate that has been given onto them. And so you look at these three promises that has been given. I think that we have performed equitably well. And I would state very strongly that in this Fourth Republic, the New Patriotic Party is the party that understands the Ghanaian economy. The New Patriotic Party is the party that continues to develop the Ghanaian country. And I'm certain that on the 7th of December 2024, the Ghanaian people will do us another honest.
The Ghanaian people will be the judge of all the things that you say. Let's leave it at that. So I'll give you just 1 minute to wrap up your thoughts, and then we have to go.
Even 30 seconds. Yeah. There are 1D, 1D, 1 district, 1 down. 1D, 1F. They were not able to. 1D, 1F, they were not able to. 1D, 1 million, they were not able to. Now they are going to 1D, 1E, 1 equipment. You see, it is not a matter of clever acronyms. It is a situation on the ground, and I think they should move away from these catchy phrases and then do the job on the ground. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kwame Nkrumah Bosio, and from the CPP, you are part of the Independent Committee of the CPP. And then Dr. Pograve Bachidankwa also joined us. He's government spokesperson on governance and security. And before we go, a reminder that this segment is always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, and they're offering free prostate screening and free fertility screening at their various locations. Here in Accra, you can find them on the Spintex Road behind the Angel Educational Complex. In Kumasi, Kronuma behind the... here in the Spintex Road, you can find them in Kumasi. You can find them in Kronuma behind the Angel Educational Complex, in Takrade Anaji Estate, and in Tema Community 22, in Techima and Hanswa, in Esiama in Zima. And their call lines are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next.
Welcome to the sports segment on the AM show with me, Haruna Mubarak. And to our first story, government might be commissioning 5 youth resource centers in the coming months as work is set to resume to complete the projects. Work had stalled at over 5 centers in the last few months due to financial challenges. But the Sports Ministry seems to be making headway in providing the needed money for work to continue. Here is the CEO of the National Youth Resource Center, Pius Enam Ajide.
The Minister's instructions were that we should expedite action and ensure the prompt completion of 5 out of the 6 facilities. Along the line, the governing board added 1. So as we speak, 6 of the youth resource centers are very advanced. 1 having been commissioned is now in use. From today's meeting, we are hopeful that in the coming days, work will resume on all of the other 5, and we are hopeful that within the coming months we should commission the 5 other projects, and then we can put them to use. On the issue of the cost, we are in the process. As I'm sure you all know, the phase 2 contract was signed sometime in 2020, and due to some challenges which has a background, and we can deal with the background subsequently, the work was delayed. So we have had to do a variation because the prices of things have changed. And so we are in a process to complete the variations. And so I prefer that we can wait for those processes to terminate, and then we can put the real cost. You know that the nature of the contract is a reimbursement contract. So the contractors have done some work, and then they will raise certificates and will pay them. And I don't want to mention how much we have paid to the contractors. That will be very small. We are talking about the contract sum. Very soon, the variations would have been approved by the Public Procurement Authority, and then we can put those out.
To the Olympics, and Nigeria's Minister of Sports Development, John Eno, is committed to sanctioning officials for negligence over the registration of Favour Ofili. The sprinter will not compete in the women's 100 meters after the country's Athletics Federation and Olympic Organizing Committee failed to enter her in the event. Here is Nigeria-based sports journalist Sio Shapele with more.
Biggest shocker for Team Nigeria was the fact that one of our medalists or medal hopefuls, Favour Ofili, is not going to be able to represent Nigeria for the 100 meters race. Now, see why it's a big deal for Nigerians, because she's been on an upward spiral, especially from the under-20s, whether it's from Kenya, the ones in Colombia. She's been focusing on her races, whether she focused on 200 meters for a few and then focused on 100 meters and then the relays and all that. She's also someone who has made podium finishes in multiple competitions, whether it's African championships, whether it's under-20s, even for the Commonwealth that just concluded, and now she's even finding form again, even at LSU and the NCAA. And this is why it's a big deal. The Athletic Federation of Nigeria, their chief technical director, Samuel Nikiko, has come out to say that no, it was not the fault of Athletics Federation not putting her name, having her name imputed in the squad for the players or the athletes that are going to run for 100 meters. There are those in the ministry that say, or the NOC as well, Nigerian Olympic Committee, that argue that, you know what, it's too much races. They wanted to be sure that she would run for the ones that, were sure to be medaled. But this is where the mess up is. The athlete did not have an idea. She's an Adidas athlete, by the way. So there's also an argument that our team should have been able to check, the list for play or for events that she was registered in. Unfortunately, this list was released just from the sponsors or from the organizers just a couple of days ago. And a couple of weeks ago, that's when the other list was released. And people will not think that this is where this thing will go, but this is where it is at. Where does it leave Favour Ofili? The Minister for Sports, John Eno, has put out a mandate and said that between the NOC and the AFN, they have to find a way to have her compete in the 100 meters as well, because it's an individual effort. It's not something that you should take away from an athlete that has worked 4 years, now make it 8 years. Because only just last Olympics, we saw where over 25 athletes had issues with registration and whatnot. So there's an argument that, is it that the ministry is a place where people, or the NOC is a place where people get job opportunities, appointments, and then start fighting different athletes that they feel like they need to put under certain control? If you ask me, I wouldn't know, because I wouldn't want to say the things that I do not know. But one thing I know is this: Favour Ofili is a potential medalist at any competition, especially with the way she has been on her program, her training, and she's in the form of her life. And having Team Nigeria without her for the 100 meters is a disservice and it's unfair to her.
Organization should be held accountable for any of its actions that affects people, their communities, and their environment. So we have moved from responsibility to accountability, which is key. We are also saying that in that vein, if an organization commits any harm to anybody, that organization should pay. If it doesn't pay, a higher authority should make the organization pay. And that where the organization, fortunately or unfortunately, that's something wrong, it must correct it. And then, in the end, the organization, if it does no wrong at all, it should do some good. It should apply some of its funds to have a social impact, a positive one. I pick a single definition to flesh out this train of thought. The continuing commitment by organizations to behave ethically and contribute to economic development while improving the quality of life of the workforce and their families, as well as of the local community and society at large. So we move from responsibility to accountability to commitment by organizations to behave ethically, ethics, right and wrong. So we are expecting organizations to behave like human beings and want them to contribute to the economic development of the nation. So let's consider the University of Ghana. Are we committed to behaving ethically? I'm not answering those questions. I'm asking you guys. Are we contributing to economic development? Are we improving the quality of my life? Because I work here. And then the quality of life of my family members, as well as the local community, Legon, Bawoleshi, etc., and society at large. Meet Sarkodie, the dancehall artists. What's Sarkodie saying? I have provided 5 approaches to CSR, and I'm going to link it to Sarkodie. There is this person, a famous socialite, very famous in social media space, who wrote a book, and among other things, accused Sarkodie of many things. But Sarkodie doesn't write books. He sings. So in response to this person, Sarkodie said, you are the only person responsible for your bad decisions in life. So let's bring it to the CSR space. We have many approaches to CSR. Which approach are you going to select as an organization? So this goes to executives and management. If you find that your CSR is not working for you, or you don't understand it, it's your fault and it's your choice. So let me run you through these approaches. The first one is CSR as philanthropy. And I'll give you an example. Just One Group, all these examples are from this year. Just One Group donates 500,000 cedis for renal treatment at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, University of Ghana Medical Center, and the Bank Hospital. Renal is kidney. It's a lifesaver. So Just One Group in this instance is using its CSR to save lives. It's their choice. The second one, CSR as a business strategy option. Republic Bank supports Legon VC's laptop initiative. Madam Chair, 1 student, 1 laptop. Republic Bank, they think that it is important within their business strategy to support your initiative. That's them. Me, I don't know. Third one, CSR based on ethical and moral values. Ethics, the concept of right and wrong. Morality, the concept of bad and good. So some organizations might pump a lot of money into employee welfare programs for staff and family because it is important for them to do so. They like to be good. They want to do good by their employees. And then we have CSR for achieving social sustainability. The example there is from Newmont's $4 million agric processing factory supports 1,000 farmers in the Ahafo region. So you are a large multinational mining company. You are situated in that area. Lots of people may or may not have jobs in your organization. But you see, in your immediate community, people don't have jobs. But they can farm. So you support their endeavors with that amount so that you can keep 1,000 farmers in jobs. So that perhaps you don't need to import peppercorn and stuff like that from Burkina because we have our own farmers. That's CSR as social sustainability. And then we have CSR based on shared value, which we refer to as strategic CSR. Cadbury supports cocoa farmers. Why? Cadbury's main ingredient is the cocoa bean. You find the cocoa bean in the cocoa pod. The cocoa pod is on a cocoa tree. The cocoa tree is on a cocoa farm. The cocoa farm is owned by a cocoa farmer. And Cadbury is supporting the cocoa farmer. That is CSR along your value chain. So when you support the cocoa farmer, you are ensuring that for 20 million years to come, you have cocoa beans to stay in business. That's Cadbury. So that's 5. And what do you want to do? An organization can decide to adopt an Indomie-type CSR approach or a Calipo-type CSR approach. So what is an Indomie-type CSR approach? Earlier on, I spoke about the fact that some organizations have not functionalized CSR in their operations. So you go there, you don't find CSR. That is an Indomie CSR approach. So you do your CSR once as an event, or as a happenstance, or as an activity, and then we don't see you again. That's an Indomie approach to CSR. Calipo approach to CSR, you might do several events in the year. You might even do a single event over a lot of years. So you can decide that come every Easter, you are going to organize Easter soup free. Everybody should come. Easter comes once a year. But you consider that to be your CSR. That one is up to you. And then you have the third type of CSR. You can see it right there, so I won't mention it. Just say it for yourself. That is the type of CSR that changes lives. We have looked a little bit at the CSR that improves the well-being of your employees. When COVID struck, a lot of organizations took the trouble to ensure that the workplace was a safe place to come and work. Those who did not do that ended up facilitating the activation of COVID in a lot of people's lives with some dangerous consequences. So what I have done is to metaphorically apply Indomie, Calipo, and condoms to CSR. That's all. There's nothing complicated about the title. So for those of you business executives, even for those of us here in the University of Ghana, tomorrow morning when you wake up and you go to work, ask yourself, what is the nature of my CSR? We have found love. What are we going to do with it? I'd like to introduce you to Heavy D and the boys. There's a lot of theory flying around. When we pick the theory, what do we do with it? So I'm going to pick 3 articles and explain what I've done there. This first one, Businesses, CSR, Theory, Opinion, and Evidence from Ghana. What we sought to do, or what we wanted to find out, was to ask this question. If we put indigenous Ghanaian firms here and internationally connected firms there, we want to see how they understand CSR and how they execute CSR. It was the first large-scale survey in Ghana on CSR. And this is what we found, that the organizations, the companies that have international connections, perhaps they are local subsidiaries or international groups, they are franchisees, etc., etc. What we found was that these companies are more strategic, they are more moral, more ethical, and more studied in their approach to CSR. As for the indigenous organizations who have no links whatsoever, you can guess what we found. See no evil, speak no evil, talk no evil. They suffered from a severe lack of exposure to CSR understanding and CSR benefits. They were less strategic and they were less ethical. The second paper, I decided that if I've looked at the organization, I'm going to look at the people who run organizations. So this is an examination of executive and management attitudes on CSR and ethics in Ghana. And what did I find? I found that in organizations where their executives and management considered themselves to be ethical, they believed in a God, irrespective of which God. They believed that they were good people. You could somehow see that these things were streamlined along the organizational CSR endeavors. And then we also found the converse, that where organizations were supposedly doing good things, the people there considered themselves to be good. In fact, I met some executives who told me that they have changed, quote unquote, because the culture in the organization was good. So they had to bend to the culture in the organization. So culture is important, even in CSR. Now, this last one, so we have organization, we have management, and this last one looked at potential employees, young job seekers. Very, very recent. So I went around asking young people who were engaged in their first degree programs, what do you think of CSR, and what would you like organizations to do in terms of CSR? They all say, yeah, it's very important. Responsibility is A1. I say, okay, what type of CSR? I say, yes. Now you are talking. We want to work in organizations that think about us. Give us plenty money. Pay us to sit at home and not come to work. Pay our children's school fees. So executives, these are the people that are coming to work for you in a few years. They like the idea of responsibility. They like the organizations to be good, but to be good to them first before any others. Governments run countries, and governments have a role to play in CSR because they have to tell us what we must do. This is Jackie. She's Daddy Lumba's daughter. She has a fantastic voice. Now, Jackie is speaking about her bae, her love interest. And she's telling him that my mind day for you and my heart beats for you. Now, let's replace Jackie's bae with the government of Ghana. This is what I'm saying to the government of Ghana. Are we in your mind? Does your heart beat for us in terms of CSR? You can all answer that question. Me, I don't see. But you see, surprisingly enough, the government of Ghana facilitated the writing of a national CSR policy. We started in 2013. I led the endeavor with some fantastic CSR brains in this country, with massive funding from GIZ Ghana. My GIZ friends are here at the front, and coordinated by the Ministry of Trade and Industry. This national policy was submitted to MOTI in 2014. 18 months later, approved by Cabinet, and then launched in the same 2016. How many of you have seen the national CSR policy or even heard about it? I can see one or two hands. So that is how fast government's heart beats for us in CSR. At this rate, we will all be comatose. We are not in government's mind at all. So luckily for Jackie, her heart is in somebody else's mind. Now, why was it important to put this policy together? It was important because we didn't have a codified set of, if you like, rules and regulations on what to do about CSR. So these are the issues that we sought to interrogate. How do we encourage responsible behavior by entities? You have a space where people think that it is okay to donate $20,000 for first prize Miss Ghana, and then at the same time steal electricity. I mean, how do you put the two together? So on the one hand, totally irresponsible. On the other hand, seeming to be responsible because you have donated $20,000 to somebody. Even me, if I vex, I can donate $20,000. But I don't vex by heart, so they can go ahead. I don't vex like that. My vexing is Indomie and Calipo vexing. How do we identify and encourage CSR within key social issues that are relevant to Ghana? Because, as it were, this is a huge playing field and people are doing whatever they want in CSR. So what do we want organizations to do? How are we going to shepherd them along a certain line? Inequality, local content, the environment, galamsey, pure water, just name it. Creating, looting, whatever. Where do we want organizations to go in regards to CSR? Where do we want the University of Ghana to go? As for their case, I'll tackle it last. The people behind me. Me, I'm just giving a lecture. How do we encourage zero negative impact while supporting growth of all forms? We mentioned at the beginning that impact is negative and positive. So how do we encourage positivity and then depress the negative? How do we encourage and ensure measurement? You see, if you do good things, you want us to know about it, you want to measure.
If you enjoyed that, if you were tapping your feet and nodding your head while listening to the wisdom being spewed by Professor Daniel Ofori, well, I was in line with you as well. He is former provost of the College of Humanities at the University of Ghana. He delivered that inaugural lecture sometime in June, the 27th day of June this year, and we're pleased to present him. He's in the studio with us. Prof, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, it's early morning, and I am a bit hungry. You got me salivating because you were mentioning Indomie, Calipo, and everything
the other one, yes.
in there. But it's really good to have you join the conversation this morning,
My pleasure.
especially on the back of that lecture. Tell me, why this title? Even before I get into what CSR is or ought to be, why this theme for that lecture of Indomie, Calipo, and condoms, an intimate conversation about corporate social responsibility?
Okay, so very, very simple. I wanted to be able to speak to the heart and minds of the Ghanaian people. You know, inaugural lectures sometimes are thought to be very dense and complicated issues, but I wanted to bring it to everybody's understanding so that at the end of the day, everybody will be a semi-expert of CSR. So I wove my themes around very popular concepts. Now, if you look at the title, there are some pictures there. Everybody is familiar with those pictures, Indomie and Calipo, and, you know, the third one. My people on campus have christened it IKC, so Indomie, Calipo, and condoms. And to be able to paint pictures, people remember pictures more. If you talk plenty, they forget, but they're able to build a mental picture in their minds of, you know, Indomie and then Calipo and condoms. And I also wanted to titillate people a bit to whet the appetite, and all people were propounding all sorts of strange theories about what I might be talking, you know, about Indomie. Is this some different type of Indomie? I said, well, you come and listen. So I wanted to do a lot of things. First, build pictures in people's minds, and second, bring to the lowest denominator so that everybody can understand, and also create some humor and fun, because I enjoy the work I do, and I have great fun, and I want people also to enjoy what I teach. So that's, for me, that was Dan Ofori in short.
I see. And Sarkodie, DL, and all those others came in.
Absolutely. And I use that in my teaching, and students remember that. So when you remember Sarkodie, every time he says, what else? So you've done this, what's the next step? So you remember what I'm talking about. And as for my mind, day for you and my heart beats for you, I mean, all the young people know Jackie. So if your mind beats for me, it means that I'm sitting right in your mind. And what am I doing in your mind? Am I causing trouble, or am I giving you some benefits? Am I giving you a heartache, or am I giving you a warm glow when you think about me? So in terms of CSR, when you think about CSR, does it give you a warm glow, or does it give you a heartache? So I use this sort of metaphor to make my point, and I enjoyed putting it together. The only thing was whether it might go pear-shaped or people might enjoy it. I didn't know that till the last minute.
What do you think was the reaction of the people?
Well, as soon as I played the first slide and asked the audience that on behalf of myself, Tiny, Kokoveli, and Batman, are they ready? And everybody like, yeah, we are ready. But are we ready for what? They didn't know what was coming. But I thought that set a nice tone to the whole conversation. So at every point, they are thinking, what's he going to do next? What's coming next? And how is he going to link it to the subject of CSR? So for me, I had a great time. It was fantastic.
Except that's good. I mean, we had a great time watching this as well. I could hear my backroom seniors also, you know, shedding their thoughts on this matter.
Where it might go.
It was for me how you segued a short while ago, mentioning Sarkodie and just going, what else?
What else? Yes, absolutely.
But interesting way of capturing, your audience. You are a professor of, you've taught management, yes. CSR, strategy, project management,
HR,
and all of
management,
that.
Yeah.
What is corporate social responsibility? When I had these engagements with you before we came here, it hit me that maybe a lot of what, and of course listening to what you shared as well, a lot of what people mistake for corporate social responsibility may be something else. So let's start from the foundation. What is CSR?
So CSR, the C there is for corporates, those that make profit, organizations. The S is social, the non-profit making, so public sector and then NGOs. And then the R is responsibility. So the responsibility cascades over everybody, organizationally. So the question is, what are your responsibilities and what are you expected to exhibit? So we have a continuum, 0 to 100%. Where are you operating? So people tend to think that my CSR is just to give. That is part of CSR. But it's not just that. The out there is responsibility. And when you have a responsibility for something, it means when you deliver, we praise you. But if you don't deliver, then we are going to heap massive opprobrium on your head. So it is responsibilities. The question is, what are these responsibilities? And there are many and vary depending on where you look at them. So, for instance, an organization has responsibilities in the workplace, i.e., their employees. So what are your responsibilities towards the employees? And then you go into areas like health and safety. A lot of us, you go to work, you sit down for a long time, at the end of the day, you have a curved back because the chair you are sitting on is not good. The workplace is not configured ergonomically for work. Right. That's one example. You leave the workplace, you come to the marketplace. What does the organization do at the workplace? Engage with its clients and customers. How do organizations treat us as customers? Last week, some organization decided that it's not going to make it possible for me to make my calls. Nobody has called me to apologize. Nobody has compensated me. Nobody has said anything.
Our networks, I know what you're referencing.
I'm not mentioning names, but when I paint the picture for you, you conclude. That's what I do. Right. I'm just analyzing. Right. And nobody has even told me, i.e. the regulator, that you guys, these guys are sorry, we are going to fine them. But it's their responsibility to deliver for me. I paid good money. So that is economic responsibility. And then when we leave the marketplace, we come to the supply chain. Organizations have responsibilities there. And then there are responsibilities in the community, the immediate community where you are operating. Are you creating noise? Are you creating a nuisance? Are you facilitating traffic? Are you facilitating potholes? What is it that you're doing for the community? And then we come to the wider society. Are you stealing our electricity so that we are paying more? Are you messing up so that our insurance premiums are going up? So that is a continuum of CSR. Philanthropy is good, but it's only an aspect of CSR. So like the example that I gave, somebody goes to give a $20 first prize for Miss Ghana, and then we find that they've been stealing electricity for years, which costs more than the $20,000. Exactly. And I said emphatically, even me, if I vex, I can give you $20,000 now. I don't vex by heart.
You don't vex by heart.
I don't have
you don't get upset quickly.
No, I don't do that kind of vexing. So
let me see whether I can try to get you to vex.
It won't happen.
It won't happen. 20K.
So I'll vex in the Indomie kind of vexing. So we need to understand that organizations have basic responsibilities.
Right. It's interesting how you started it off and with the point you're making about CSR, because I know that there are organizations, for example, that would say, we realize that these groups are marginalized in our community. We even want to render certain service where they come. We're not giving them anything. Maybe it's lunch that day, but they come and our people who are well-versed in what they do, CEOs and all of that, some of these people will have interactions with them. Just speak to them. Give them a boost for the future. And that's CSR.
I agree.
Others will say, well, there are not too many of this race or something here. We're also going to try to, maybe not necessarily employ them, but create opportunities where they can feed off that and move on. But you see that I'm looking at an article by the Harvard Business Review, and you would look at the key areas of CSR. You've mentioned one of them, and you rightly said that it's not just philanthropy, then you are done. Yeah. So you can look at the philanthropic aspect, environmental, ethical, and economic. Let's delve into these aspects and how we are faring in Ghana.
Okay. So what I find is that there's a certain haphazard approach to our CSR. The key point we are making with CSR is that just like in any endeavor in life, there's the best way, there's the good way, there's the average way, there's the below average way, there's the poor, and then there's the horrific. So people are doing it like snake and ladders. They move up here today, then tomorrow they fall here. So we don't have a kind of strategy that we are following. It's not coordinated. And the first hint you get is when you look at the organization and CSR is not functionalized. You go into every organization, you will be sure to meet a finance director. Show me your CSR director. You'll be sure to meet a marketing director, HR director, IT, production, operations. If they are not directors, they are managers. Where is your CSR manager? So as soon as you don't functionalize it, it means CSR becomes an orphan. You only think about them every now and then, like a dream. So we can go 5 years without dreaming. It means that there's no CSR in our life. So what you need to do is to have a structure, because the research also tells us that where you do deliberate strategic CSR, you earn benefits. So if you are going to be earning benefits from doing something, the argument is, why stop? But because a lot of our organizations are operating around the periphery of CSR, they don't gain benefits. So they consider CSR as a cost, which indeed it is, because you are spending money. But when you spend money, what do you get?
Is it that they do not realize the value of CSR? Is that why they see it as an expense rather than something that could give them boons?
Absolutely. And that's also because they have not functionalized it. I don't want to bring it down to you here. Who is responsible for CSR here? Let's move on. Let's go to other places. If you functionalize
I know we do a number of things here.
Yes, so yours is in between Indomie and Calipo. I will find a place for you on that ballpark. So the thing is that when you start off, what makes you think that the finance person is the most important person? And then you come to marketing because you have to sell. And then you come to HR because you have people. So by the time you start operating, CSR becomes an afterthought. And that's the first mistake we make. CSR must be on board, because you are going to say that I have a vision, I have a mission. The next thing should be CSR in your strategic planning formulation. CSR should be at the top, because you want to see how you're going to affect the society. CSR is essentially an interaction between the organization and society. And so long as we have organizations, we are going to have CSR. The question is, how?
How?
What are you going to do?
Right. How do you even navigate that, depending on the corporation?
Yes.
How do you navigate that? There are institutions, corporations, MNCs in mining.
Yeah.
Others are doing auditing, like the top four that we know, the big four, the KPMGs, the Deloittes, all of those others, you know. How do you navigate that to find out, okay, this is my area, what do I do?
Okay. If you have a strategy, and a lot of organizations pretend to have strategies, they don't. They just have ad hoc plans. So if you have a strategy, what we are saying is that you are going to look at your value chain. What is my business? And then when you find your business, you ask yourself, how can I squeeze CSR out of my business? Rather, what we tend to do is to do our business and then come and add CSR in bits and pieces. But CSR should be in the business. So the CSR you are doing is arising from your core competencies. So if you are in the financial services, your CSR must be feeding into your financial services.
Give us an example.
So there's,
when you're done,
there's a bank
Go ahead.
that decided that, you know, banks, all they do, apart from all the big talk, is buy and sell money. That's bank business. Finish. And if you haven't mobilized credit, i.e. bought money, you can't sell it, give it out in loans. So there's this bank that decided that, look, we are dealing with a lot of merchants. So we are going to register them and then teach them business principles. so that their businesses will prosper. They called it financial inclusion. And whilst doing that, what did they do? They put a POS in every merchant's premises, and they open bank accounts for them. So when the merchant does business, when they sell, the money goes right into their bank account with this bank A. So the bank is not coming out to Ghana, 2 million for 2 million, pass your salary here. They are not doing that. That's not how they mobilize deposits. They are changing the lives of merchants by teaching them how to run their businesses properly, draw up a ledger, credit and debit, and enabling the merchant to do good business. Because when the merchant is doing good business, making more sales, they are putting money in their account, which is in your bank, which you are then using to give loans. That's strategic CSR. In the lecture, I gave an example of, I used the Cadbury example. Your business is chocolates and other things. What is the base of chocolate? It's the cocoa bean. Cocoa bean is sitting inside the cocoa pod, which is on the cocoa tree, which is on a cocoa farm, which is owned by a cocoa farmer. Their CSR is with the cocoa farmer. Because as they enable the cocoa farmer to do good cocoa growing business, they get more cocoa beans for their business. So you need to look at your value chain. Ask yourself, what is my business? And where is the CSR in that business? Because so long as you are earning benefits from your CSR, you are not going to stop. You are not going to wind up your CSR because it's a cost. Why should that organization stop supporting cocoa farmers? Who is going to produce your cocoa beans? It's a strategic move. We are ensuring that for the next 1 million years, we have cocoa beans, because cocoa beans are the bedrock of our business. So you've got to ask yourself, what is my business? My business is water. My business is that. My business is comms. My business is whatever. Where is the CSR in that? Another aspect to it is that you can actually decide that even though my CSR strategy is not clearly thought out, what I'm going to do is to stop annoying people. That alone is CSR, because we are saying that there is problematic behavior arising out of organizations' operations. So what is that problematic behavior that you are visiting onto others? So I ask things like, where you are situated, your location, are you causing traffic? That is CSR. It's complete irresponsibility, because I don't have any business with you, I don't buy from you, I don't sell to you. Why are you causing me traffic? A lot of our businesses are configured such that they don't even have parking space. And when you are minding your business, you are stuck in traffic for 10 minutes because somebody...
Some of them have clients parked along the way, so they've blocked one side of the road.
Yes. That's complete responsibility. Look at the amount of time we are spending in the traffic. Fuel is expensive. And then fumes, nitrous oxide, etc. is bad for our health. So by that singular irresponsible behavior of yours, of causing traffic, you are sending a lot of people to Kolebu for upper respiratory tract infections. And people don't see that it is irresponsible behavior.
So you have a lot of these corporate institutions doing the wrong thing. But how prevalent is this problem in corporate institutions or corporate bodies in Ghana? How prevalent is it? How many do you see out there doing the right thing?
As I said, there are sort of spots. You know, when you watch National Geographic and you watch these cheaters, you see the plain coat and then the spots. So that's what we have on our...
A leopard can't change its color.
Yes, and you have on a what do you call it, game park. So some organizations are doing very well. But what we need to understand is that you are not going to get to the point where CSR benefits you completely in a day. It's a journey. But some of us haven't started. And the reason why we haven't started is that we haven't functionalized CSR. That is extremely important. When I go to class, I ask my students, how many of you have had any CSR training before in your lives? Never. But they have accounting for non-accountants, finance for non-finance, customer service. Where is the CSR in it? Who has met a certified CSR practitioner in their lives? But everybody has met a certified accountant, certified marketing, certified HR. Where is the CSR? So it needs to be part of your DNA. It has to be. Otherwise, you are missing the point. Otherwise, you are going to be doing try your luck, Indomie and Calipo type CSR, and you will not get benefits. You say, well, of course, you know, when I go and give somebody a check for 100,000 cedis, I get visibility. But the following day, somebody else will be in front of the news, on the first front page of the newspapers. You are gone. And people that, the organizations that do good CSR, they don't come and tell anybody. Because when you are drawing up your annual budget, you don't come and tell me. You just run. We see that your organization is running. And by the way, staying in business, flourishing, growing is CSR. Being
staying in business,
yes, being
flourishing, growing,
is
all
CSR.
of that
Yes.
is part of CSR.
So if you collapse, you are a very irresponsible company. What has happened? Because people have lost jobs.
Right.
Government has lost tax revenue. People have lost livelihoods. What could be more irresponsible than that? So the first law of CSR, stay alive, be economic. Because organizations give us what? Goods, services, and products. If all organizations were to collapse, what will happen to us? We will be dead.
You are the source of people's livelihoods.
Yes.
So you must stay breathing so they can also
You must be economic. That is responsibility number one. But organizations don't realize that.
But let me ask you this, and of course then we can even expand it and talk about corporations, MNCs that have come into our country and have upped and left.
Yes.
I mean, we could extend it to that.
We could.
In terms of our own business environment and how it impacts these. But let me ask you, you've spoken a lot about doing CSR.
Yeah.
Why it is important. But I'm sure a lot of those corporate entities, CEOs, COOs, CFOs, and others watching us will then be asking, okay, Prof, this is what you're saying. What does it mean to us? How does it benefit us? Break it down for us.
So the first benefit of being responsible, if it is, we are looking at it economically, it means that you stay in business. You are responsible. So you are watching your bottom line. Your business plan itself is good. Number two, CSR attracts good. Best talent wants to work for good organizations. CSR gives you a good reputation. You see, in the end, we consider being responsible as being good, quote unquote. Who doesn't like good people? Men want good women to marry, or some men want good men to marry. That's a different story. Women want good men to marry. So the concept of a good thing can carry to organization. And when you are good, i.e. reputation-wise, what happens to you? People do business with you. And where does that lead to? It improves your bottom line. So being good pays. So there's the economic, there's the attracting talent, there's the good reputation, there's even good flavor from government for the industry, that we know what you're doing. So we are able to cut you some slack. When you hear that so
when
and
you say
so has...
slack, are you talking of tax
slack,
relief
no, slack.
and all of that?
No, when something happens, they don't jump to conclusion. They come and say, how do we fix this together?
Right.
So, for instance, if you look back in history, some organizations have had bad things happen to them. But we have cut them slack. We say, oh, yeah, but these guys, usually, they give you good service. They give you value for money. When you call about a problem, they go out of their way to solve it. So that idea of good brings you a whole raft of benefits, which organizations don't see because they are too short-term. Organizations think that we want it and want it now. No, it's for the long haul. And if you stay in there, you will reap the benefits. So there are lots of benefits to CSR.
Would for example, and this just came to mind, I'm sure you remember the bubble, the credit crunch, sometime around 2008, thereabouts. In places like the United States, major banks were bailed out. Others were not. Would that be because of the image that had been created, what these entities stood for, maybe CSR? Does that feed into what you're saying?
There are two things. The government realized the importance of that sector to the economy, how many people they employ, what benefits the government itself gains from them. So it couldn't allow them to fail.
Because they had been responsible.
Yes.
They had created
they have
jobs.
Economic. They have paid taxes, corporate taxes. It kept people in jobs. And when you keep people in jobs, you reduce the unemployment rate. Who doesn't like this? And that, if more people are in jobs, They are buying snacks, they are buying water, they are driving to work, buying fuel. It's a multiplier effect. So you cannot divorce that from the body politic. It has to be there. It's just the matter of how do we do it? How do we make it pay for us? That's the question.
I see.
That's the question. How? But if you don't get immersed in it, you're not going to know how. And we are saying that start from the basic principle. Look at your people, because there is CSR at the workplace. Are you treating your people right? Is the workplace a joy to go to, not a nightmare? That you have an enabling environment, you don't have a bullying, aggressive CEO, MD, whatever, that makes all of your creative juices freeze up when you go. And then over there we said, improving the well-being of your employees and their families. How many organizations are doing that? A lot of us, when you go to work for somebody, you actually lose, because we are encouraging you not to take your leave. We pay you not to get rest. So every year we are cutting your lifespan by about 5 years by paying you 40,000, which you take to Dubai for 3 days, and you think that the company is doing you some good. They are killing you slowly. And these are irresponsible acts that organizations do all the time. Our people need to go on leave. They need to recharge their batteries. And you think that when you invest on a good table and a good chair, it's cost. The finance bill, we are watching our bottom line, we can't buy that chair for you, but it's an ergonomic chair. It keeps my back straight. I
was just about to get to that.
You know, and then when you have backache,
yeah,
you can stay at home for 3 months, and we are paying you because we couldn't give you a proper chair. So there are all manner of things. Some of us are invested in polished Chinese tiles that should not be in the workplace. People are sleeping on their stilettos and falling and breaking bones because we think that these are nice tiles. Who cares about nice tiles? We want tiles that are fit for purpose. Our offices are not configured for work. You are sitting here, there's an AC blowing directly in front of your face. So every day you have a cold, every day you have shoulder ache, neck pain. You think, quote unquote, your people in the village who are doing you, as we say in Ghana. It's the AC that's doing you. The workplace is not economic. And so your organization is irresponsible in the workplace, which is bad.
We could go on to talk about lots of these corporate entities, some of them even having our brothers and sisters, persons with disability, yet not being disability friendly.
Absolutely.
Lots of companies don't have health benefits.
They don't.
One of the most basic things you could have. And so if you were to fall sick today, you would have to go out on a limb.
Yes, you're on your own.
Out of pocket.
You're on your own.
The question then to you is, most of our companies, admittedly, either don't have any CSR footprint or they are doing it haphazardly.
Indomie and Calipo.
Indomie and Calipo. Where do they start? They've already operated like this for decades, some of them, years, some of them. Yes. Where do they start? If today they said, okay, Prof, we want to take your advice, where do they start?
It must start from governance. Do you have a board? Can they spell CSR? If your board can't spell CSR, if your top management don't understand it, that alone is an indicator that CSR will not happen. So you must functionalize, it must be sitting there. CSR should not be an orphan. So let's consider a buffet. The CSR is the one that's going to serve you the water, whereas people are drinking fine champagne and eating. There are finance people, accounts, HR, marketing, etc. So functionalize it, bring it into the realm and ask yourself, what is it that we want out of our CSR? Are we doing it because we want to help our people? Are we doing it because we are helping our clients, our customers? Are we doing it because we are improving our supply chain? Are we doing it because we are helping the community? Are we doing it because it's going to make us more economic? It's going to improve our reputation? It's going to affect our bottom line? You need to have that conversation. And then, where is your budget? If you don't apply anything to it, nothing is going to be done. So it must start with your board. It must start with top management. If it doesn't start from there, it's not functionalized. You are not going to go and put an advert and say that I want the best CSR person in Ghana. Nobody does that. What they do is that they want some accounting or finance professional with 52 million years in experience. You see all those sorts of adverts all the time. When was the last time you saw an advert for a sustainability manager, CSR manager, etc., with a PhD in sustainability? Double masters in CSR. And yet in all of the other functional areas, people are top-heavy with all of those qualifications. And so if you don't have it, how are you going to understand how to do your CSR? So you have to start from there. My research has shown that if CSR is embedded in the governance systems, if it's accepted, if it's lived and breathed by top management, it gains a foothold. If it doesn't start from there, it won't happen. Because those guys are the ones who tell us where we are going, what we are going to do this year, next year, and in 5 years. And if that plan has no CSR footprint, you are dead in the water.
Of course, if there's no strategy, you know what they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Plan to fail,
so
yes.
In other words,
that's
there'll be nothing.
So they tend to, on a whim, write some 50,000 CD check for somebody because we have a budget. And then the next person goes, oh, today our budget is finished, you have to come next year. Who denies the finance department of a budget or marketing of a budget? But CSR, to the extent that it doesn't appear at all, it means that it's not on the radar. And if it's not on the radar, out of sight, it's out of mind.
Prof, as we wind down on the conversation, I want us to look at environmental responsibility, that aspect out of the four, especially because of where we find ourselves in Ghana, mining, gold, and other things. But before that, there's a message for you. It says, it's from Yawabu. He says, good morning, Prof. Restroom facilities in government hospitals and government firms are broken down and not in good condition. I recently went to one and I couldn't even pee there. Is this social responsibility? He gives an example. I don't want to read it out on air, but he says the toilet facility there is like a village dugout toilet. Those are this person.
It's irresponsible.
How does that feed into this conversation?
It is irresponsible. It is called problematic behavior. So when you clean that, when you reduce that, when the ambience is good, when it's neat, when you feel comfortable going there, you have removed a source of irritation to your clients. And that alone is being responsible. Not to talk about what diseases and inconveniences you can cause people by maintaining that state of affairs.
You go to some of them, they don't even have hand-washing liquid. After you are done. The water is not flowing, first of all.
You better carry your own sanitizer everywhere. I have my sanitizer in my pocket. I don't take those chances because I don't know what you're going to meet. If you go and it's there, thank God, hallelujah, we move on. But so you see pockets of irresponsibility everywhere we go because we don't understand that these are not merely responsibility, but they are our responsibility to execute. And then when they do one or two things, we praise them, oh, hallelujah, these guys have done so well. It's your responsibility. So somebody does 80% and they think they've done you a favor. The next time somebody goes to a hospital, Kolebu, for surgery, doctor does 8 of the 10 stitches and say, Master, patient, my friend, go away. I've finished 80%. What are you going to say? We expect doctors to do 100%. Why do we do 80, 70, 90, and then we are okay?
Interesting.
Why?
Interesting.
Why?
Another one in the washrooms that, just to conclude, you go to some places, they may even have the hand-washing liquid. The water may be flowing, but you look at the faucet, and it looks all green and stuff. You don't want to touch it because even when you are done washing, touching it again means you've taken it.
Because there's no tissue. There's a hot air. But you've got to close the faucet. Usually, you have to give me tissue. When I finish my business, I still hold the tissue and use it to close the faucet and not reinfect myself with whatever is on it. So,
before we go, and before I take your concluding comments, environmental responsibility. I'm looking at another document here that talks about, for example, reducing pollution, waste, natural resource consumption, carbon emissions and how to control them, recycling goods and materials, offsetting negative impacts by replenishing natural resources. We can talk about our trees, forest cover, and distributing goods consciously by choosing methods that have the least impact on emissions, the environment. For you, when you look at mining, especially in Ghana, how have we fared? How have we failed? How have we done well in CSR? And then you can give me your final comments.
It's a continuum. Everybody has a role to play. First, there's the regulator, and then we have the regulations and what we expect them to do. If we leave them space to walk through, they will walk through those spaces. Don't forget, these guys have been at it for a long time. Some organizations are older than Ghana as a country. We are only, 60-something years. And these guys have been doing it for a long time. And they tried all of these things in other places. And by the way, they don't do these things in their own countries where they've come from. So why do we allow them to do that? So we must have the regulations. We have a national CSR policy that is sitting under some cupboard somewhere that nobody has seen. So if you allow the corners, people will cut them because that's just human behavior. So make sure that you are enforcing the rules. When I was growing up, I knew there was cut 1 tree down, plant 2 trees. Who is doing that now? I don't know. All we are doing is green Ghana.
we say green Ghana.
Yeah, so we do green Ghana. We go and plant the trees, but that is us planting trees. So me, I'm planting my own trees in my college. But the people who are cutting down the trees, what are they planting? It's somebody's business to check that they are doing that. So as for impacts, they are negative and positive. The fact that organization is there means that it's creating some good impact, creating jobs, giving us goods and services, etc. But what about the negative impact? So the organization must be ethical enough to say that even though this is not a law, ethics means that I must do the right thing. For example, drink responsibly. What's the meaning of that? At which point do you cross from responsible to irresponsible? Is it at the point where you can't walk? They say, Charlie, today I haven't drunk responsibly. What's the meaning of responsibility? So somebody must be telling us that the person that is serving the drinks, our drinks, when they see that someone is a little bit inebriated, don't give him more to drink. But we do that all the time. No underage drinking. When was the last time anybody went to buy alcohol and somebody said, Master, let me see your Ghana card. Are you 18? Nobody does that. So there's a difference between the regulation, the law as it is, and what's being implemented. But we are saying that youth organization, you must have an interest in being responsible. Otherwise, what's the point?
In the final analysis, what would be your concluding comments? What would be your thoughts, not just for us, but those watching us this morning?
Finally, I'll say that responsibility is good for the organization itself. So commit to being responsible because you can do a lot of good and gain a lot of good by being good.
You can do a lot of good and gain a lot of good by being good.
That's it. And good is responsible. That's all. Your employees will be happy with you because you are not cheating. Look, yes, even responsible behavior is an insurance. If you tell everybody that in this organization we don't pay and accept bribes, Office of Special whatever prosecutor is not going to knock on your door because we don't accept it. So it's not a big deal. You read in the papers, others are being arrested. You are somewhere, you are operating in a different zone. So me, I go to class, I don't care it's week 1 or week 2. Week 1, I'm there, 7 o'clock. If you are late, as soon as you sit, I'll ask you a question. You can't answer, I say you can't even answer the question, and you were late. So students, Prof Ofori, you better be there. And yet others, first week, students don't come. I don't care, it's my brand. I don't care if students are coming or not. Week 1, I'm there. And gradually, people hear that you will be there. So they'll come. So change the narrative. You be the change that you want. Be responsible in your area. And then everything else falls into place. And in the end, it's good for you.
Prof, thank you for being good to us this morning. Thank you for being responsible.
My pleasure.
And,
my pleasure.
Thank you for not...
Thank you for having me.
Vacillating between Indomie and California. It's been good. It's been good.
And thank you for not making me vex because I don't have the 20,000 to...
I tried to let you drop 20K. It appears it's more difficult.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Thanks for joining the conversation. That is Professor Daniel Ofori. He's former Provost, College of Humanities at the University of Ghana. Of course, he has taught everything between management, strategy, project management, CSR, among others. Well, before we veer into our next conversation, Dance World Services is calling. If you're stressed out about all your cleaning needs, worry no more. Say no more. Dance World Services is your one-stop shop which meets all your commercial and residential cleaning needs, from pest control, janitorial and house cleaning, event cleaning and waste management, as well as carpet and sofa cleaning. Whether you're at home or at work, we understand and know how haptic cleaning can be coupled with your busy lifestyle. If you're too busy, it's fine. We've got great news for you. Dance World Environmental and Facility Management Services has got you completely covered. And know that we excel in whatever we do, leaving you beyond your wildest expectations. Where can you find us? At Excel House opposite Regimanuel Estate, Nungwa Barrier. You can also reach us on these numbers: 0302 905 538 or 0555 752 361. Dan's World Services beyond expectation. Well, also coming up today, we discuss the emerging issues from the Joy News Agric Manifesto and how political parties are prepared to give them prominence when they are in power. What do you make of the concerns of the Minister for National Security as well on the back of some of these issues? We'll be telling you about that. The National Security Minister, Kandapa, has been talking about dwindling trust in political parties and the judiciary and the implications of say on the Afrobarometer report on our national life. We'll bring you details of that after the break. Do stay.
Don't run away when there's mismanagement. You correct it. And in our case, we know how the subsidies were mismanaged. You see? So we just have to correct that. And when we correct it, subsidies are important. And I'm saying that the professors are here, they can say it. Where on this earth a country has ever developed without subsidy?
Well, the prof is here.
And
Prof.
today,
Ask Prof the question. Like
Prof, I mean, it could be rhetorical, but then,
this is not.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you can tell us,
he has to educate
if you
us.
can tell us which country has ever developed without subsidies, and even today, which country is able to manage its resources and economy without applying strategies here and there, you know, it's a tool.
So yesterday, of course, we had that program, the Agric Manifesto, and of course, focusing on the political parties and what they will have to bring to bear when it comes to agriculture in our country, Ghana. You just heard speaking there, Edward Karewe. And we also hear from the CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness, Ghana, Anthony Morrison, who had some thoughts to share about technocrats rather than politicians managing agriculture.
Centralization process of PFJ and any other form of subsidies should go directly. MOFA should focus on what they need to do and get the Department of Agriculture to actually drive agriculture project implementations in the country. And that is the only way we can begin to see results.
So you are saying that take politicians out of Agric.
That's it.
And leave it to the technocrats?
Technical directors.
Leave it to the key implementers. And the key implementers, the value chain, the farmers, the input importers, and also the coordinators.
But what role then do you reserve for the politicians?
Well, let them focus on policy and let the experts actually now look at those who are not able to deliver based on their target, and they should punish for it. But when you have the politicians interfering, the other side of punishment or having the project taken from them is not able to get it achieved. Let's empower NDPC to police the ministries. The ministries have become so, they've become more like, they've made NDPC like the proletariat, and ministries have become like the bourgeoisies. Lot of resources going to the ministries. The NDPC that needs to actually police national policy to make sure that the ministries, the agencies are delivering on the national mandate, are not being resourced well enough. We need the NDPC to be like the IGP of Ghana policy and make sure that if a ministry failed to deliver on their mandate this year, they are reprimanded. They are given maybe a lower budget. So next time, if they do not have the right competent people, they ask them to go for refresher training. Because we are having a lot of wastage at the ministries.
Well, there was still more. Associate Professor of Agricultural Economics at the University of Ghana, Professor Edward Ebo Onuma, also suggested that government ought to establish poultry processing factories to ease the burden on farmers. He believed that such factories would significantly enhance the efficiency and productivity of poultry farming in the country.
1960, we were doing about 12% importation of poultry. Now we are doing over 85%. Why? We have the imported, poultry meat in cut parts. is processed in car park. So can I see a government that would want to establish a factory, a processing factory, one at the north, one in the middle, one at the south, and then all the farmers are empowered. Take your goods there, process them, and then it's well packaged. Now that is not enough. Let's go to the various hotels and, for instance, papaya. If you go, the chicken people are consuming, we talk to all of them. Now, this year, there is a policy that take a chunk or a certain percentage from what Ghana is doing in terms of the chicken processing. I think that it will go a long way. We should be specific. Okay. We should be targeted in what we do.
We also had the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, Edward Karewe, urging government to address climate change in its manifesto, and political parties as well. He explained that crop yields were low because the lands were being damaged by climate change.
Look at the climate change. We also have a version of the climate change. I can imagine that people think that climate change is something that is in Europe, it has been caused by Europeans or some people somewhere, and we are now feeling the brunt. What about our own contribution? If climate change is partly caused by human activity, what do we do to cause climate change? And today, it's not surprising at all when Dr. Charles indicated that prices are supposed to be coming down around this time because we are supposed to be harvesting, particularly the southern sector. Why are we not harvesting enough? It's all because not only about the rains, it's also because the lands are destroyed. If you look at when we started with Galamsey, and consistently, we've been destroying the land which is never reclaimed. I don't know how much of irrigation, Galamsey land that has been destroyed has been reclaimed. If anything at all, it's insignificant.
So that's the conversation we head into next on the AM show. How will these political parties who are vying for our votes, how will they address agriculture, the lifeblood of our economy? Well, we know that service and all of that has been doing pretty well, but how about agriculture? How about our cocoa? How about other things? Well, we get into that conversation. We have joining us Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno. He is with the NDC, and of course, he is an agric economist and a chartered financial economist as well. He joins the conversation. Doc, good morning. You would have to unmute so I can hear you.
Good morning, Ben. Good morning, and thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. Just off the top of my head, I don't know whether you followed this conversation yesterday, but how crucial is Agric, that manifesto, ahead of election 2024? I've heard you say, for example, that, and this was just last month, or should I say 2 months ago, because we've just entered August, that there's no policy document for planting for food and jobs and all of that. You see some of the problems. How crucial is it for us to fix these problems ahead of election 2024 in our party manifestos?
First of all, let me emphasize that the Ghanaian economy, as it were, is supposed to be an agrarian economy. And that means that if you look at our economic structure, agriculture is one of the key elements of the structure. And so we run a three-sector economy. We have agriculture, industry, and services. And you would realize that agriculture has been doing somewhat around 19.7%, 20% in the past few years. But what people do not know is that agriculture is an aspect of the economy which has implications or effects on industry and services. If agriculture does well, it means that industry will do well and services will do well. That means that any government that would target and focus on agriculture would exponentially grow the economy and create jobs. But let's come to the problem of agriculture in Ghana. I think that the problem of agriculture, which is leading us to, close to food insecurity as a result of high food prices and low nutrition, unavailability of food, inconsistent supply of food. We have seen in the past few months the price hikes in food some of the food items, we are not able to get them. Some we have to import and all those things. It's actually the key problem of this economy, because if you look at our macro economy, you look at the fiscal challenges we are having, you look at the exchange rate challenges we are having, all can be traced down to agriculture. And so fundamentally fixing the problem of agriculture would ultimately fix the problem of this country. Indeed, there is no developed country in the world that does not prioritize agriculture, or that its development or its growth was not driven by agriculture. And so the need to focus on agriculture cannot be overemphasized. But let's look at the issue of agriculture. Let's look at the problem of agriculture. I would want to break down the problem of agriculture into maybe, let's say, 3 broad themes: the demographic problems, the socioeconomic problems, and the institutional problems. Let me first of all start with the demographic problem. We know in Ghana, agriculture is mainly a smallholder activity. Smallholder means individual households, families. Some are women, some are men, and they cultivate 5 acres of land, and some cultivate 1 acre, some cultivate 2 acres. So in small bits and pieces. And so you have almost about 40% of your population in agriculture, but they are mainly smallholder farmers, and it is contributing 20%. So what it means is that when you tackle productivity level, productivity at the smallholder level, you improve their technical efficiency and their output increases, you would ultimately be, inching closer to achieving your objectives in agriculture. And so we must look at the challenges at the smallholder level, the household income, the off-farm income, because all these things play in the performance or the efficiency of the farmer. If you have a farm household that is led by a woman, the woman has no alternative jobs. All she does is agriculture throughout the year, and you have 1 season of rainfall, or let's say you have 2 seasons of rainfall. How can the person be able to grow to feed the nation? You won't be able to do that. And so there would be some lacuna, an input lacuna that must be addressed. And I'll come to that very soon. Then there are the socioeconomic factors, which mainly has to do with input cost of production. So the input cost is so high because most of the inputs that we use, the agrochemicals, the fertilizer, are all imported. Fertilizer is now almost 450 Ghana per bag. Agrochemicals, exceedingly high. If you look at the growth rate prices in agrochemicals, it will shock you. And so the farmer who has waited for 1 year to get to the farming season so that he can grow some tomato, he can grow some onion, he can grow some vegetables or some grains, will now have to struggle to go and look for money to be able to buy these inputs in order to cultivate. He can't buy fertilizer because he has no other alternative income. There is no sources of funds, access to credit for those farmers. In Ghana, it is very difficult to access credit. And as you may be aware, the collapse of the financial institutions some time ago collapsed most of these local financial institutions that were giving them agro credit. And so they do not have these banks around to have access to agro credit. And that is one of the key problems of agriculture production in Ghana. And so what happens is that because the input costs are high, if they are able to struggle and raise some money to go and buy the agro inputs and produce, the cost of production is now high. That means that they would have to find a way to sell the commodities to be able to make profits, or as it were, break even. And that brings the food prices high. And that is the reason why we are having high inflation rate and all that. Then there is the issue about the institutional challenges. The institutional challenges have to do with the policy framework that we put in place as a country for agriculture. And I have recounted how I have struggled to get the PFJ2 document and still have not gotten it. Yesterday, I posted on my Facebook asking one of the MPs who was making a case for agriculture production and the fact that we are doing very well in food supply, that he should give me a copy of the PFJ1 report and maybe a copy of the PFJ2 policy document. Still, we have not been able to see clearly the target, the focus of the program.
So you admit that that is problematic. We've had planting for food and jobs 1 and 2. We've had rearing for food and jobs, among others. You admit that's a problem. How do we fix it? Because without policy documentation, it would be haphazard implementation. How do we fix that? And I also want you to situate the conversation, because we spoke to these people also feeding into how our political parties would implement them in their manifestos. You represent the National Democratic Congress. What's the way forward on that?
So let me make this point that I have also engaged some of the officers or the technocrats you had on your program. I've engaged the Peasant Farmers Association, we've engaged GAU, we've engaged the Ghana Farmers and Fishermen Association. And most importantly, their biggest problem is policy credibility and the policy implementation processes. Mostly it has been taken over by rent seekers, politicians, who are not even agriculturists or farmers, and they take the input, some of them hoard them, and it gets to a point where they are expiring, and they bring them to the market, beg people to buy and all that. And so the issue of rent seeking and policy efficiency has become a problem. And that is one thing that as a political party, we are hoping to cure. But most importantly, let me dwell on the policy framework, exactly what must go into an effective agricultural policy framework. First of all, the policy framework must address the issue of production. And so the production, the cost, there is a need for subsidy, how the subsidy regime is programmed. Now, the kind of subsidy regime we have seen is just to favor some few private political, businessmen. And so you have a case where the entire input distribution system for a policy like PFJ given to 2 or 3 companies, they bring in all the agrochemicals, they control the agrochemical market, and they do the supply. There is no means to check whether indeed even the subsidy is being responsive, whether the farmers are benefiting from the subsidy. So the subsidy do not go to the farmers. And like as I've heard for the PFJ2, the vendors that have been selected are supposed to supply the agrochemicals to the farmers. Then the government would pay them after a point in time. And the proposal again has been, let's give the agrochemicals to the farmers. When they harvest their crops, we buy the crops, then we deduct the cost of the agrochemicals from it and give them the difference and all that. And all this is shrouded in some opaque arrangements, which nobody understands. And that affects the effectiveness of the policy. You heard the association complaining about the fact that they were not even consulted in most part of the arrangements and all that. So the institutional arrangement to design these policies are very crucial. When you have dealt with the issue of production, now the biggest problem again is access to markets. So how do we access the markets? Now we are in the tomato season. Already farmers are complaining that their tomatoes are ready and it is getting spoiled. And what is the problem? The problem is that the transportation systems are poor, the aggregation systems are poor, the access to the markets are poor. And so you would grow the tomato, you would harvest the tomato, but you would get clots. I mean, the post-harvest management would be a problem, and you will lose out as a farmer. And so the policy framework must address the marketing structures that we use to market our agro inputs, and every agro input and the kind of structures that you have to put in place for their marketing. If you don't do it very well, you would have crisis. And most importantly, I
want you to wrap on that point. I want to move on to something else, but you wrap on that point very quickly for me.
Yes. The most important one is the misalignment of agriculture production to food. We have misaligned the food systems and the agriculture production systems. And these are two different things. And mostly we focus our policies on the agriculture production, which fails anyway because of the policy inefficiencies. But most importantly, we don't link it to food. Now in Ghana, almost every table eats tomatoes. And so if every table eats tomatoes, and we are importing almost about 800,000 metric tons of tomatoes at the current rate, in fact, as at 2022, we were spending almost 570 million Ghana cedi on importing tomatoes. Now it's almost about $400 million on tomatoes alone. So you know that the country eats a lot of tomatoes. So what you do is that you focus your policies in a way to grow tomatoes throughout the season, because tomato also is a seasonal crop. And the reason why mostly off-season we import from Burkina Faso is that they have advanced irrigation systems and they are able to produce round the clock the year. And so how do we focus our policy to make sure that we produce tomatoes throughout the year? And so we know the agroecological zones where we grow tomatoes. 4 main agroecological zones. And so let's make sure that there are adequate irrigation facilities in those areas so that they'll be able to grow throughout the year. When you are able to grow throughout the year, you would be able to supply the needed quantity of tomatoes that you need throughout the year. And for that matter, maintain a low price for tomatoes. Now, you are aware that we spend 40% of our household income, 40% on just tomatoes alone. Other commodities have not come in. And so when you know your food, what you consume, then you link your policy to what to produce. So you do the production, but it is linked to food. Now in Ghana, our food is what we don't produce. Most of the food we eat on our table, French fries, the Indomies, and all those things are food that we do not produce in Ghana. And what it means is that you always put pressure on your forex because you have to import them. And so if you are able to link your food to what you produce, then you would be able to be producing locally, cut down importation, and that's where import substitution comes in. Most part of the food ingredients that you would use would be grown in the economy. Then finally, as part of the policy, you look at an agro processing or value addition program, which would, as it were, agro-industrialize and add value, because the thing about food security is that it has 4 legs, and convenience is one of them. Convenience. People will eat the food because it is convenient and easy for them. For example, Indomie has become very popular because people would just pour water on it and 3 minutes is ready. And so if you are going to spend 2 hours to prepare fufu or a banku, you would rather go for Indomie to save time. And so our agro-industrialization or agro-processing regime should target how to make our food that we eat more convenient in terms of processing. So I love yam and palava sauce, but it will take a long time and some inconvenience for my wife to peel the yam, put it on fire and boil and all that. How do we look at processing yam? How do we look at processing cassava? How do we look at processing plantain, for example? So that just as you go to the shop and buy French fries and just pour it into the oil and you have your French fries, we can have some products that are generated from our local foods, which are produced here, and be able to save the economy.
Right.
And so these are things that are very crucial that must make space in policy.
I'm glad that you're saying it must make space in policy. I'll get there shortly. You've already spoken about the misalignment of agric production, the lacuna or lacunae in some of the inputs, among others.
Ben, I lost you briefly.
I am saying that you've mentioned a number of things, just to be brief on that. But there's also I wouldn't call it emerging because it is with us, GMOs. And in recent times, we've had quite a conversation on it. There are those who still believe, no, it is not the right way to go. There are many problems with it. And there are those, like the CSR, who think, well, it's a good way to go. What is our positioning, especially on the back of food security? What is your party considering in terms of GMOs? The CSR is doing some work on that. But is it what we need now? Is it in the right direction? Is it positive from where you sit? What would be your approach to GMOs as a party?
First, let me start off by saying that the role of biotechnology in food security cannot be overemphasized. And if you don't improve your foods, you can't improve your productivity. If you don't improve your seeds, you can't improve on your productivity. Because, as we have it, the productivity of every farm depends on the kind of input you put in there. You put garbage in, you get garbage out. Maize seeds that we were producing in Ghana were yielding about 1 metric ton per acre or per hectare. There are improved breeds through biotechnology developed by the crop science department and even CSR before the advent of GMO, which would shoot our average productivity or yield per hectare to about 2.5 and 3 metric tons per hectare. And I believe that was some significant improvement through biotechnology. Now, the other aspect of biotechnology is what you call the GMO. And so the GMO looks at some challenges of the crops and design some biotechnology instruments to cure the challenges. For example, You have some crops that, like cowpea, that are attacked by the borers. And so you are pulling out some genetic components of those borers and infusing it into the seed DNA so that you would be able to produce a seed that would not attract the borers, or the borers will not even come near and come and worry you as pests. So you don't need pesticides anymore. You may not need weedicides anymore when you grow certain crops. And that is the whole idea about biotechnology. But most importantly, the challenge we have had with biotechnology in terms of GM is that when you are able to grow those seeds to that level, it means that those seeds will not be replantable. And again, naturally, God created the ecosystem in such a way that...
So you're saying they would be sterile, right?
Yes, they will be sterile. And all those pests and weedicides help in the ecosystem to make the ecosystem stable and sustainable. And so when you take those things out, then it means that the ecosystem will not be sustainable. In fact, we passed the Plant Biodiversity and Seed Production Bill some time back, and that is why CSR is, exploring all those options. Now, when you go elsewhere in the advanced markets, when you go to the markets, they are able to tell you that this one is a GMO commodity, this one is organic commodity. And so those are things that we have to put in place as part of policy, so that if anybody would want to grow a GMO commodity, you don't stop the person, because the person is free to produce that commodity. But also at the market end, the consumers should be able to select between a GMO commodity and an organic commodity.
So what are you saying? What are you saying? What are you saying? Please let me make this point. What you're saying is that as far as you are concerned, and likely because I'll be asking next how that feeds into your party's manifesto, which will be dropping from what I've heard this month. We're already in August. What that means is that the NDC is not against GMOs, but you want categorization, for example, so that people will be able to select between GMO foods and organic foods without any genetic modification. That's what you're saying.
I am saying that there's a need for us to regulate GMOs production in Ghana.
So you are not against GMOs?
Regulation means that it is control and it is...
We have some challenges with the connection to Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno. We'll try to regulate that. We'll try to see whether we can get him back so that we can hear everything he's saying. And there's a reason I'm putting him to the sword on that point, so that when we see their manifesto, we can reconcile what was said and what is in the manifesto. Of course, we want to see what their approach will be to genetically modified organisms as far as our agri sector is concerned. Dr. Otokuno, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I didn't quite catch what you said.
So I was saying that as part of our seed production. Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Just start from the point about GMOs. Yeah.
Yes, so I was making the point that GMO has its own limitations and it has its own advantages. There would be a need to regulate so that Ghana can benefit from the advantages of GMOs. And as I have said, we have been doing biotechnology since the days of Kwame Nkrumah. You remember the sheep called the Nungwa black sheep. That was a genetically, improved breed at the Legon farms. We have the Tamale yellow maize that was developed. And there are about almost 75 varieties of maize that have been developed through biotechnology. And most importantly, some would classify biotechnology as genetically modified, foods. But there is an extent to which you can do that modification. And that is why government must regulate the extent to which scientists will be, as it were, modifying those seeds. But again, let's look at the seed production regime. Ghana imports most of our seeds. Currently, there is no regulation regime that looks at the sources of the seeds that come into the economy or into the country. So EPA has a role to play. Other institutions from Ministry of Agric have a role to play. But most of the seeds that come in, there's no means to check whether the extent of modification. Genetic modification, as I said, has so many extents. Some, they infuse certain genes from animals. For example, if you use a gene from pork or pig into a seed, and you generate a genetically modified feed based on some genes from pigs, the Muslims wouldn't be able to eat that seed. And so those are things that a regulatory regime should be able to check and know the extent of modification of the kind of seeds that we are bringing into the economy. And I think that that is something that our policies will be looking at. We are very strong and very keen on some of these things and the extent of the modification, even though we don't want to sacrifice that on the altar of productivity improvements.
All right, so let's focus now. The last angle I want you to look at is the manifesto. And Agric, like you rightly mentioned, Agric feeds into service. It is literally the backbone of our economic life. How, what shape will the NDC's manifesto take when it comes to agriculture? For example, you have the bit about fertilizers. And now we also have to pay keen attention to them because some of those fertilizers also create issues with our climate, including climate change. Pesticides, Agric extension officers, planting for food and jobs and all of that. Like, what can we expect from the NDC in terms of your manifesto when it comes to agriculture? You have about 3 minutes to expand on that, and then we'll wrap.
Okay. So we are proposing, as announced by President Mahama, an agriculture for economic transformation program, a bigger program that will harness food crop development. We'll be looking at grains development program. We'll be looking at vegetable development program. We'll be looking at livestock development program. And so most importantly, our protein provision or livestock development program should be linked to the grain sector. And so what we are saying is that there must be a core policy to address the initial challenges that I raised, that has to do with access to credit, that has to do with access to cheaper inputs and all that. And so how do we use the kind of pesticides that we use? Do we have and can we have local fertilizers like composting, like organic fertilizer, being used more by the farmers instead of the inorganic fertilizers that may have negative implications on the soil quality and the environment? Do we use local remedies for pesticides, for example, that will help us to? Those are things that we are going to look at. So under the Agriculture for Economic Transformation program, we are looking at a stimulus arrangement that will get most of the agro inputs produced here in Ghana, so that we'll be able to cut down the cost of these agro inputs like fertilizer and so on and so forth. We would recall that before we left power in 2016, we had made an arrangement for a compost plant to be set up in Ghana so that we'll produce more compost for those who would want to apply organic fertilizer on their farms to increase productivity. I don't know what has happened to the compost plant Amasaman that was built by, I think, Zoom Lion or so. But those are the areas that we have to look at. I have seen on TV Kantanka doing a lot of stuff on, producing locally manufactured pesticides and weedicides, for example, which we can look at industrializing and producing more in Ghana so that we would be able to control the prices. Because with the current exchange rate crisis that we are having, if we continue on the spree of importing agro inputs like fertilizer, weedicides, and pesticides, I bet you agriculture would be very unsustainable. There's an association for input dealers who also thrives on their business survival, and it is their business to bring in these commodities. There would be a need for government to engage so that most of the tariff regime or some of the subsidies that they are giving, or if you want the tax exemptions that they are giving, can be remodeled in such a way that they use those incentives to set up manufacturing plants here so that we produce them here, so that we don't put pressure on our exchange rate. When we are able to do that, we believe that we'll be able to increase productivity in our grains, for example, do product specialization. And that is one key aspect of the policy. Right. You must do product specialization. Know the kind of food crop commodities that you are producing. Target. So you target maize, you target soya bean, you target rice, you target sorghum, you target millet. These 4 components, when you are able to focus and not spread your resources wide, you would be able to improve the production of those ones, because the livestock sector also relies strongly on the maize and soya beans. As we speak, for the past 5 months, for the past 1 month, I've been looking for soya bean to buy for my farm, and I'm not able to get soya bean anywhere. I am struggling to get for 1 month now. I needed only 100 bucks, and it's a problem. And so that is a challenge. Meanwhile, we have, from the middle belt, the forest savanna zone, middle transition zone, up to the north is a place where you can grow soya bean, and it does well anywhere. So why are we struggling with soya beans? Now we have a challenge with our policies even on soya bean. So we do exportation of our soya beans, or we have a legal regime or legislative regime that will stop the exportation of soya beans, because now we import eggs. Ben, I don't know whether you are aware we import eggs in Ghana. Eggs are imported. How, as a country like Ghana, why should we import eggs? But it is mainly because the food cost for the poultry industry has gone exceedingly high. 8 years ago, you would buy 1 bag of feed for about 60 Ghana cedis. Now you are buying 1 bag of feed for almost 400 Ghana cedis. And that is even the mixed feed. If you are looking at the raw feed ingredients where you do your own mixing, maize as of today is 350 Ghana cedis per 50 kilos. And I think that is exceedingly high. That is unsustainable for any farmer to indulge in. And if indeed farmers are going to produce at this rate, then it means that very soon you may be buying eggs at 80 Ghana cedi or 90 Ghana cedi per crate.
Well, these are all issues that we hope to see you address in your party's manifesto, like you promised, around the middle of this month, or at least by close of the month. Dr. Peter Boamo Otokuno, we are grateful for your time. Thank you for joining the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, he is an agricultural economist. He is also a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. And as we tackle this matter from the political parties, we'll be bringing other political parties as well to share their thoughts on this sector. But before we take our break, your favorite podcast show, Bus Stop Diaries, now airs every Saturday at 4 p.m. on the Joy News channel. You can also watch and listen to all our episodes on the Joy News YouTube channel, myjoyonline.com, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Grab that chilled drink and join us for another exciting journey filled with trending buzz. Do stay. We'll be right back with more right after this.
Staying with us right here on the AM show. Now let's talk about the Energy Commission Senior High School's Renewable Energy Challenge. It's a school challenge and a project-based competition born out of the collaboration between the Energy Commission and the Ghana Education Service, as well as the Ghana TVET Service. And the Energy Commission is like the referee for the energy sector, but the representatives are here in the studio with me. We have Bernice Norte. She's an officer of the Renewable Energy Regulation, and Caleb Azindo, and he's also an officer of the Renewable Energy Regulation. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I said that we're having a conversation and you were explaining to me some of the mandates of the Energy Commission. But briefly, what do you do at the Energy Commission? And then we'll talk about this challenge that you have.
Okay, so good morning. The Energy Commission is the technical regulator of the energy sector. So we have the mandate to advise the Minister of Energy on regulation and then technical issues within the energy sector. We also give out licenses to all companies that want to operate in the energy sector.
Right.
As well as under the RE Act, we have the mandate to promote the development and utilization of renewable energy resources in the country.
Is this where this challenge falls, and is that the category that this challenge falls under? All right, so Caleb, you tell me about this renewable energy school challenge you have coming up. What is it all about?
Okay, so let me just take our minds back to when we were in school. We realized that when we are doing our thesis, once that is done, that is it. Our projects are being shelved, and all the theoretical knowledge we learn, sometimes you find it difficult to apply it in the industry. So this school's challenge is mainly a project-based competition that is meant to bridge the gap between the academia and the industry. And looking at the trend of the world today, which is renewable energy, it is imperative that we involve our youth into this space such that they are the future leaders, and once we bring them on board, it makes everything smoother and easier. And that's the main reason why we organize this competition, for them to actually develop projects with the use of renewable energy technology to solve problems in their localities.
Is this the first time you're doing this?
No.
Okay, how long has this been going on for?
So that's our 5th year.
5th year?
Yes,
Okay.
we started in 2019 as a pilot project in the Greater Accra region, which had 29 schools participating.
Okay.
Then 2020, because of COVID, we couldn't do it. Then 2021, we expanded to all the 16 regions. 14 regions participated. We had 91 schools. Then 2022, all 16 regions participated. We had 119 schools.
Okay.
Then last year, we had 125 schools participating.
In this year?
And this year, unfortunately this year, there's been a little drop in the participation due to some technical challenges.
Oh, okay.
But we had over 110 schools participating this year.
And what are
the
the
regional
stages in the competition?
Okay, so we have the regional competition. We go to all the 16 regions.
Okay.
Each region is expected to present their best 10 schools and projects.
Okay, so
That's
each
most.
region has more like an internal competition among the schools, and then they produce one representative for the region. Is that how it works?
Not really. So usually when the theme is sent out, it's sent out to all the regional directors of education. They in turn send it out to all their head teachers. So any school that is interested registers. So some regions get more than 10 schools interested in the competition. Then they would have a preliminary competition to select their best 10 before the Energy Commission moves in to conduct the regional competitions. Then we select one for each of the regions.
Okay.
Then from then, we move, after that, we have 16 regional winners. Then we move to the zonal competition. They are grouped into 2 zones, the northern zone and the southern zone. The northern zone comprises of the 5 northern regions and the 3 Bono regions.
Okay.
And the rest of the regions form the southern zone. Then after the zonal competition, we pick 3 best from each of the zones. Then the 6 will compete in the finals in October.
What's the mechanism of the competition? Caleb, you can answer that for me. What actually goes on in the competition? Do you task them to produce stuff, projects or programs? What happens?
Okay, so thanks for your question. So usually every year we give them a focus area, or what we call the theme.
Okay.
So for instance, this year we are looking at the application of renewable energy technologies in land degradation and water pollution.
Okay.
So students are to develop projects either to solve a land degradation issue or a water pollution issue, or both.
Okay.
But the renewable energy technology must be part of
right.
the
So
project.
using renewable energy technology to solve land degradation issues or water pollution. And that's the theme for this year.
Yes.
And so what happens to the winning project? And you can tell me about the winning prize for the winning school as well.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes,
I can take that. So the winning project, the Commission has signed a memorandum of understanding with CSIR, Center for Scientific and Industrial Research. So the winning project, CSIR picks it up and then further develops it and then brings it to the market for commercialization. This MOU came into effect 2 years ago. So the first project that was Peja Senior High School, they had a solar dehydrator. It's in its final stages. CSIR has a series of stages they go through before they bring a project to the market.
Right.
So it's in its final stages of commercialization. Last year's project, which was Sogakope Senior High School, they produced Farmer's Friend.
Right.
It's a 5-in-1 agricultural machine. It's also in its first stages of refinement with the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research. So these are the things that we are doing to ensure the sustainability of the project.
Okay.
You don't just come to the finals, you win, and then your project becomes a white elephant.
But in the process of commercializing these projects, are you still involving the students?
Yes, so they've been given internship opportunities at CSIR.
Right.
So they can, when they are on vacation, they can just write to CSIR and then work with them on their project as they work along.
Right.
And then the prizes. So the winning school, last year the winning school got a total prize package of 205,000 Ghana cedis.
which included a 5-kilowatt solar system, which has been installed for the school.
Okay.
So we usually have prizes for the school and then prizes for the team.
Okay.
So the team comprises of the 3 students that are going to present, their teacher, and then the coordinator.
Okay.
So the winning team, each of them got a brand new laptop, they got cash prizes, and they got solar products as well.
Cash prizes from that 200,000?
No.
Okay, so the 200,000 went to the school?
The school, yes.
Okay.
So that included a 5-kilowatt solar system, some educational materials, street lights, wall lights. There are lots of goodies in there for them.
Okay, that's great. And how is GES supporting you? You said it's a collaboration between GES, the Energy Commission, and Ghana TVETs, right?
Yes.
So how are they, what support are they also offering? Okay. Caleb?
So when you look at the Commission's mandate, we don't directly have access to the schools. It is in the jurisdiction or the mandate of GES and the TVET service.
Okay.
So they are the link between us with the school. So in terms of engaging the students, we don't engage them directly, but they show us the way, the path, and make things easier so that the competition is being able to be organized successfully.
Okay. I'm sure you're calling out students, interested students in schools and authorities to come aboard. So what is your message to them? I'll give you a minute to directly speak to our audience, those who might be interested to come aboard.
Okay, so we'll be having the zonal competition next week. Okay. That's on the 10th and then on the 12th of August. We are inviting the general public to come and look at the competition. It will be done in Kumasi, at the Great Hall, and then the Engineering Auditorium. So we are inviting the general public to come and view and see what our students are capable of doing, because if you sit in your homes, you think we are not capable of doing anything, but the students have really great and creative ideas. And then I'll also use this opportunity to entreat all schools to participate fully when the theme comes out for the competition.
Okay, we are waiting for that theme. And who are your judges? Where do you pull your judges from? From the schools, from the commission, experts in the sector? How do you, find them?
So we pick a mix from each of them. So we pick some from the educational sector, we pick some from the schools, we pick some from the industry, pick some from ministry.
Who are your judges this year? Can you tell us?
I think we've narrowed down to 2. Okay. I can mention 2 of our judges now. We are still on the 3rd one. Okay. So we have Engineer Seth Mahu from the Ministry of Energy. Okay. And then we have Professor Francis Kemaso from the College of Engineering, KNUST.
Okay, great.
So we are waiting for our 3rd judge to confirm, then we can put
And is that person going to come from the GES side?
It's going to come from the industry.
From the industry as well. Okay. So how many, just out of curiosity, do you have a lot of women students, female students, also participating in this kind of competition?
Yes.
Or is mostly male dominated?
No, it's a blend.
It's a blend.
It's a blend. And to surprise you that in this competition, we have 3 girls' schools. So we have Ahantaman girls from the Western region. We have Ola girls from the Ahafo region.
You should have said Malco girls.
Then St. Rose's from Eastern region.
Okay, yeah. All right.
But amongst the mixed schools, you still find ladies also being part of the team. The team is made up of 3 students, so some of them you will find ladies in almost every group.
Okay. Which of the projects so far do you find the most fascinating?
Why is that a tough question? Because
all of them are interesting projects.
Yes.
Yeah, but tell us something.
No, unfortunately,
we can't do that. It's interesting to think how you use renewable energy technologies to solve these problems. And these are not problems that are, in isolation. These are real problems that we all face in the country. So what are they doing? What are they up to?
We can give you a gist.
Yes, give me a gist.
Okay, so there are cases where a student develops a machine that moves on water, collects the plastics on the surface of the water, and they converted it into bricks.
Collect the rubber from
the surface of the water,
and
then they have a separate machine that will convert those plastic waste into bricks.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And also we have a water purification system where they will show you the simple ways of which they can filter water that has been polluted.
Okay, well, I'll give you your minutes now to speak to the audience. I got carried away with the questions, yeah.
Okay, so would like to thank all the students that have participated in time past and those that are in the competition and those that are aspiring to participate next year, that they should bring out their creative best. It's a competition meant for students, and therefore we are here for you. I also would like to thank our sponsors. This competition has not been easy, but through their support, things have been able to come this far. Notwithstanding my executive secretary in the person of Engineer Oscar Moneza for his vision in making sure that students are part of the program activities of the Energy Commission.
Right. So apart from the internship opportunities, then do you have like scholarships as well, or is just the internships and commercializing these projects?
Yes, it's just the internships and commercializing these projects. And then sometimes, due to certain CSR activities of the commission, certain schools benefit. For example, Pledger Senior High and then in Nkranza Technical, as part of our CSR project under our 25th anniversary of the Energy Commission, they've benefited, they've been given 2 brand new kitchens, fully fitted.
For the school?
For the school. So it's part of the other benefits that the schools that participate in the competition can get. Because if there are any projects that comes to the commission that should involve senior high schools, we tend to look at the schools that have participated in the challenge and then pick some of the schools and then give them the opportunity for the projects.
Is there any training you offer these students prior to the actual competition, or they get some sort of coaching in the process of the competition? Or they just produce these projects by themselves?
So usually...
Do you give them coaches?
We don't give them coaches, but however, we have an online meeting where we tell the coaches, that is the teachers.
So the teachers coach them or guide them to produce these projects. Okay.
Then at each stage, the judges will throw questions and they use that to correct their project. So each stage you are being corrected and you keep refining it until you're able to make it to the final.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish you the very best. And when is the zonal again, just so we can remember that?
It's on the 10th, which is the Saturday, and then the 12th. The 10th is for the Northern Zone, and the 12th is for the Southern Zone.
Okay, would you be streaming live anywhere?
Yes, it will be on Joy News.
On Joy News, okay, so we'll bring you all the gist in that regard. Benis Norte is Officer of the Renewable Energy Regulation, and Caleb Azindo is also an Officer of the Renewable Energy Regulation. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you.
All right. There's still more coming your way. Ben and I will be back in a jiffy. Don't go away. And we're about to wrap up, but before we go, I just want to wish my twin siblings a happy birthday, Augustus Achu Abochi and Augustina Achupi Abochi. Happy birthday. I appreciate you both so much. I'll see you later. Enjoy your day. Benjamin Akakbo.
Well, happy birthday to the twins. And before we go, though, let me tell you a bit about the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Drapa Dubai, as we call it. You've seen the rest. Now it's time to see the best of them all. Take a break from work, take a break from the South. The Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Drapa Dubai is the place to relax, rewind, and re-energize. That's important. It's away from the stress of the South now. This is what awaits you, an unforgettable safari experience. They have an amazing array of wildlife, including lions, hippopotamuses, zebras, ostriches, among many others, using that spacious and well-secured game tour vehicle or using quad bikes. They also have water sports such as jet skiing, boat or canoe rides, and also various family games to keep you and your families excited every day. But there's still more. Great tourist attractions in the Upper West region will be open to you as they take you to the Mushroom Rock, Slaves Caves, and many more. So escape from the South, escape to the North, escape to the Royal Cozy Hills Hotel, Drapa Dubai for an unforgettable safari experience. All you have to do, pick up your phone. Are you ready? Dial these numbers: 0501 694 280 or 0248 844 463 to make your reservations or make further inquiries. Maybe I'll see you there one of these days.
Right.
But
And this is also coming from Insa Mohammed from the Tema Police District Command to the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Baba Sanid Adamu. He says, you are one of the finest police officers in the service. You represent discipline, self-reliance, and hard work. May Allah bless you with good health and wisdom wherever you find yourself in life. Happy birthday, sir. This is coming from Aisha Mohammed from the Tema Police District Command.
Well,
and that's our show, Benjamin.
Indeed, that has been our show. Happy birthday to all of you celebrating. Those we've mentioned, those we've not mentioned. If you're celebrating today, we celebrate you as well. My name is Benjamin Akakwa. I do this together with
Sweetie Abochi, and we'll see you again tomorrow.